podcast.
Oh, good.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Africa's Talking podcast. Africa's Talking powers conversations across Africa. We power the communication between businesses, governments, and organizations of all sizes and their customers and citizens on our SMS, USSD, airtime, and voice gateways and APIs. Africa's Talking also supports GDPR data-compliant communication on our future-ready customer data platform, Illyrian. Today we talk to Dr. Weche and Teddy Warrior. We look forward to an interesting conversation today.
Thank you so much. Welcome our viewers. This is Michael Kimathi, or you can call me MK, for the Impact Masters podcasts. We are blessed to have in the house one and only Revered Dr. Weche, and accompanied by one and only Teddy Warrior, a familiar guest in our podcasts. And it's always a bliss. It's always a blessing to the young people and upcoming tech gurus and designers across Africa to listen to this beautiful mind that has created opportunities across the continent. Thank you so much. How are you guys today?
I'm good.
That's awesome to hear. So please go ahead and introduce yourself before we go on with the conversations for today. Please.
Thank you. I'm Teddy Warrior. I'm part of Africa's Talking since the beginning. And I'm also part of ACAD as a mentor. I enjoy mentoring the next generation of African leaders. And if you're to press me hard, I would say I like growing leaders and raising African entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Thank you so much, Teddy. Without further ado, I think maybe let me speak a bit about Dr. Weche himself. A PhD holder, is a man of God. He has done amazing stuff in a really short time. Since 1984 through 2015, from what I'm looking at, he has been so many things. Number one, 1984 to 1989, he studied theology and biblical doctrine at the Nairobi Bible Training Institute, or if you like, NBTI. 1985 to 1989, he was at the University of Nairobi doing Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine a degree, BVM if you want. Then 1999, he was able to do Demelin Management School, that's Botswana. Diploma in accounting, chief. Yeah. This is good. 2001, he joined Institute of Commercial Management in UK, diploma business management and administration. 2001 again, same year, Strayer University, Baltimore, Maryland, USA, computer networking. Same year again, same university, financial management, graduate studies. 2002, 2005, he did De Montfort University in UK, Masters in Business Administration, that is MBA. Then January to December 2009, Nairobi International School of Theology, Kenya. He went back to God a little bit. Masters in Governance Studies. Well, not theology though. Then in April, May 2010, Metropolitan Mediation Services, Boston, USA, certificate in mediation. And it didn't stop. So February to May 2010, Harvard Law School, he did program in negotiation. Nice. January to May, again in 2010, University of Massachusetts, Boston. He did dispute resolution, graduate studies. January again to May 2010, University of Massachusetts. He did entrepreneurship, graduate studies. In September 2015, to date, he has been at the Management University of Africa as a PhD candidate. So you can call him a prof or a doc in the waiting.
In the
right?
US, you are probably
I don't know if
associate prof.
Yes. Chief, It looks. If you look at the education side of things, it has metaphor. You have started with animals, and you've gone to tech a little bit, and then you have come to like people resolving issues. How do you carry out negotiation? I would like to hear from you because some of us just do an undergrad and we are good, and then maybe we go and do an MBA after 10 years. And then maybe after that, you feel like, unless I want to be a lecturer or a professor somewhere, then I go back to school. So what advice is this journey? Because it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, the journey, first of all, is advised by a lot of curiosity.
Yep.
Not being satisfied with just the information that we're kind of thrown at.
Mm-hmm.
Tom, Dick, and Harry. So, for example, as a born-again Christian, I had challenges with some of the answers that I received from either the pulpit when I sat in or the Christian Union. And when you ask hard questions,
Yes.
you start getting upset.
Yeah.
So the easier thing to do is just go for and do theology studies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That way now, at least you're on par with some of these guys and the answers. And when you ask your professors, hard questions,
Yeah.
they don't have problems with it.
Yeah.
And as you move on in life and as you grow, your experiences also change.
Yeah.
Going for veterinary medicine, for example, and finding myself needing to know stuff about accounting, which I did know,
Yeah.
business administration, and then financial management. And
Yeah.
computers exploded out there, and I knew nothing about them. So you want to know about computers, you want to know about networking.
I see.
And then thereafter, getting myself into a situation where, as I now became politically active, I realized, hey, wait a minute, I don't know much about governance. So go back into graduate studies on governance at,
Yeah.
International School of Theology. And then from there, now you realize it's not just governance, it's actually leadership. But before we get into the leadership, we had the post-election violence, and people thought I had answers to that, and I didn't have serious answers.
Interesting.
I went there, so I went and studied dispute resolution in Boston. And while I was there, the professors are the ones who shoved us now into Harvard Law School to do the program of negotiation. So
Wow.
sometimes you go into one place and then other doors open. And then thereafter,
The land of opportunity.
Yeah.
so to speak. And while you are there, you start realizing, but wait a minute, there's a fine line between just negotiation and there's mediation and there's arbitration. And then you have to study all of those separate, So that's how I have those other extra things that I studied. And then having come back now to Kenya and now getting more involved with the political leadership, then I realized I really don't know much about leadership per se.
Yes. Yes.
Hence go back and do affiliation.
Yeah, that's something because it sounds like most of what you did was more of there's a need,
Yeah.
right? And I like it because sometimes we ignore most of the problems because we feel like we're not well equipped, we're not educated enough to face them. But for you, you're like, people are fighting in 207 or there's, dispute resolution that is needed. And then you go back to school.
Yeah.
You come back and you are well prepared. That's interesting, I think.
You think you're well prepared until
Yeah.
you meet Martha Karua.
What's up?
Nothing. You meet her at Harvard Law School.
Okay.
Realize, how utajua haujui.
Serious, eh?
Yes.
Kind of situation,
Yeah,
eh?
then you go back and study some more.
So Julius, could you help us understand maybe your first encounter with her there and maybe the questions
Yeah.
she asked you or what you asked her so that viewers can understand why you're saying that she's always prepared?
Yeah.
Well, as a Kenyan resident in Boston, we were invited to attend a talk that she was having at Harvard Law School.
Okay.
And as every other Kenyan who's there were asking, why would you want to go and listen to this talk? So Wanja, who we mentioned a short while ago, was very persistent. She would call me up to 3 times a day, make sure you come. And I'm wondering, why should I come? But anyway, since she was on my neck,
Yeah.
I humbly accepted and I went and I sat into that particular conversation. She was speaking about the post-election violence. And as she spoke, I felt I had issues with some of her answers. So I took down notes,
Okay.
questions. I wrote down 10 questions. And then after the talk, I went and met her face to face and I asked her the 10 questions one by one.
Nice.
Shock and horror to me.
Yeah.
She replied to all 10 without referring to any written material,
Yeah.
looking at me in the eyes.
Yeah.
And she basically hit me 10-0.
Oh, that's interesting.
10.
Yeah.
Then after that, she asked me nicely, so do you have any further questions?
Wow.
But
Yeah.
honestly,
Yes.
I was too embarrassed to ask anyone. He says, now it's my turn to ask you. When are you going to bring your skills to Kenya so that you can add value to the Kenyan people? And of course, I had no intention of doing that at that point.
Most people in the diaspora, you have to sweet talk them better than just please come back. They learn them in Kanadi. Yes, yes.
Please bring
Yes.
your mic. Yeah.
Yeah, so she threw me that challenge, and I said, okay, when I come back to Kenya, I shall follow you up. I came back to Kenya, and to cut a long story short, when I followed her up, my shock and horror, she actually called me back. And that's how I got introduced to the political party.
NAC Kenya.
NAC Kenya. Got involved in the leadership and had to, take my blows in rising and going to the grassroots and communicating to people what our policies and all that were. Eventually rising to national level.
Yeah. So I think we have jumped the gun here up to Mother Karua, but it's fine. It's okay. We are good. I just wanted to know, how is it working with animals? Do you get to be a veterinary or?
Yes, I did qualify in Bachelor of Veterinary Medicine. We were the first lot not to be employed by government, which was a bit of a challenge.
Wait. How? Tell us a bit about that.
I think our government officials had misappropriated.
It was the end of. Previously, you would have just jumped into the government.
Normally, as soon as you finish your exams in June, from 1st July, you're on government payroll. So we were the first people who, as soon as
Whose government was that?
Kenya government,
Who was the president then?
the president was Moi.
Moya, huh?
But it's a governmental thing that really doesn't matter as to who is in
Yes.
That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
That those who have qualified are automatically absorbed and to the Ministry of Agriculture, sent to various parts of the country where they're going to be able to add value. So we were the first lot not to be absorbed, which was shocking to us.
In the 80s, late 80s.
This was 1989.
Maybe because of the structural adjustment programs from World Bank.
Guys had just eaten money to cut
Okay.
because eventually people were employed a year later.
Okay.
But by the time they were employed, with all due respect, I had some mentors come into my life. They had opened doors for me which I didn't know existed. I was already earning 3 times whatever government was going to pay. I was driving. I was living in Jamhuri Estate, feeling good, wearing suits. There was no way I was going to start going to the bush.
Interesting. So, back to this question. I mean, did you just abandon?
I didn't abandon it per se because when I went to work in Botswana, the opportunity there was to get into the livestock industry. And I opened up a supplies company, a veterinary supplies company. We became the largest supplier of veterinary products to Botswana government in excess of 10 years.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. So that was pretty nice. It was very exciting. And it's in the process of running that business that I discovered, you don't know much about business, guy. You don't know much about accounting. So that's why I also then had to go back and do accounting, go back and do diplomas in business administration, go back and do an MBA degree, go back and struggle with financial management. Because it reaches a point in running your business where you're not just selling bricks, so to speak. It's not just A minus B is equal to C.
Yeah.
Sales minus cost equals to profit. You now have to be able to process, some of the things that you have to do. You have to have capital for the business. You've got to be able to expand the business, to invest, long term, and things like that. So, for example, learning what research and development is all about.
Yeah.
Put 15% aside for R&D, which for a lot of people thought was just me going and enjoying myself in Singapore and other exotic places.
Yeah.
Well, I did enjoy myself out there.
A man has to enjoy himself.
A man has to enjoy himself as you do R&D. Without R&D, you're half dead in your business.
Yeah.
You may want to talk more about this Botswana gig. How did you get there before even? Because that's it's like a random event, it looks like, but maybe not.
It was not too random. I went to visit a particular gentleman who was introduced to by my family members.
Okay. In Botswana.
No, in Kenya.
In Kenya.
I went to visit this fellow, and like every other Kenyan, it was at that point when we didn't have employment. We were
Yes.
employed by government.
Even right now, right? It's like we are back to the same situation. Because actually, if someone takes what you're saying into their context today, it may be very, very much help.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went and saw this gentleman, and like every other Kenyan, I was looking for a handout. That was my mentality.
And this was 1980s.
This is 1989.
So the world just goes round and history repeats itself.
It does. So you need to learn from history. So become a statistic. But in my wanting to get a handout, this guy did a SWOT analysis on me. I've never had a SWOT analysis done on me. I had no clue what a SWOT analysis was. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? And what is your way forward? So I felt really embarrassed in that 30-minute interview.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, he felt that some of my strengths basically existed in my offering my professional services outside the country. And he proposed I go to Botswana.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
when I left that meeting, I thought, this is a total idiot. How can you do something like this? Come for a handout and you're busy doing a SWOT analysis on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that explains why a number of our mentees also feel the same way when they follow the similar
Yeah.
SWOT analysis questions.
Yes, SWOT analysis questions, because they just want handouts, because that's our mentality. Right? Tunaomba serikali itusaidie. But to cut a long story short, 2 years later, when I could have been doing as best as I thought I could be, because of training and all that, I felt like I'd hit a glass ceiling. And I wasn't able to-
So you didn't even go to Botswana immediately.
Not immediately.
You told that guy, you that telling me stories. Let me go.
Wasting my time. I walked away. So, but it's 2 years later that thing hit me. Yeah, when now I'd reached the glass ceiling on where I was, and I started recalling some of the advice that he'd given, and that's when I started strategically preparing to go there. So I first went to Botswana with a friend of mine on holiday. So went on holiday, and then from there went into South Africa because we were feeling young and we got hot blood.
And this is 90s, right?
This is now 92.
92, yeah.
1992.
Ah.
We enjoyed ourselves. We made some foolish decisions. We went into dangerous places like Alexandria.
Alexandra, I was waiting for you to say that.
We did
South
know-
Africa.
We didn't know what townships were.
Yeah.
There was no information on South Africa those days.
Yeah.
We were riding on the trains. Those days trains were either ANC or IFP.
Yes.
It's a miracle we didn't get thrown off those trains.
Serious.
Yeah, because appetite was active, they had not gained.
There was still
full
appetite, by the way.
There was still
Yeah.
appetite because
That's actually something. This is another context.
yeah. But there was a lot of black on black violence.
Yeah.
And we as Kenyans
Still
did
there,
not
yeah.
know that. We did not know
It's still there, by the way. Yeah.
Well, they call it
Xenophobia.
xenophobia. We didn't know that, but we learned very quickly. Foolishness. But to cut a long story short, then I was then able now to meet various persons I presented my ideas to, and they took me on board. One particular one bothered me every single day for the entire time I was there, saying that we could get into a particular supplier's business. I didn't know what it was. And so when I took the risk of trusting this guy, that's when I started my first company, Leruo Services.
In Botswana.
And what does Leruo mean?
Leruo actually means animals.
Okay.
Animal services. So people now go to now call it.
Lorua was a local.
It's a local
name.
word. It's a Setswana word.
Okay.
So in Setswana, King Anka word the Leruo. So I'm a doctor of animals.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I said that in Setswana. I shouldn't.
No, that's
worries,
perfect.
no worries. This is for Africa.
This is quite interesting.
Yeah. So there's something actually I need to ask at this point. I see you're a bit spiritual, right?
A bit.
Please talk about that.
Yes,
Why is
please.
it important to be spiritual?
How can you say somebody who's a reverend is a bit spiritual? What's the definition of now?
No, it's
after
going to some religious events, and then you're like,
let me tell you why
this
I've
pastor
said
is he really real?
a doctor, reverend. So
Yes.
the reason why I've said that is that if you look at the young guys, you see from 2000 to right now is someone who was born in 2000.
Yes.
They are already 22 years old.
Yes.
Making a lot of decisions around spirituality.
Yeah.
And with the current state of affairs when it comes to churches, which are the champions of spirituality, they are more focused on religion than spirituality. So I would like to understand is what's your take on that, given that you have done this for some time now, and what key part has it played in your life until today?
Well, what I would summarize that is that God is calling us to faith in Him. That's number one, and then faith is actually revealed in the written word, that is the Bible. But for those who don't have access to the written word, there's the heavens above you, there's the stars, there's the sky, there's the sun, there's the moon. That's why the Bible says the heavens are telling of the glory of God, and the firmament declares His handiwork. Day by day pours forth speech.
Yes.
So the question is, are we listening? Night by night declares knowledge.
Yeah.
So you can come to faith in God, okay, just by looking at the creation and realizing there's a creator. But a lot of people, are so busy with whatever it is they're doing, they can't actually look up and see that they're actually stars.
Yeah.
And appreciate that they're actually billions of stars out there.
Yeah.
So at least science has helped us understand the heavens a little bit better.
Yeah.
But over and above that now, as you expose yourself to religious writings, and that's where theology comes in, you need to be in a position where you can compare what does the Christian faith allegedly say vis-a-vis the Muslim faith, the Buddhists, the Baha'is, the Hindus, and the rest, and then hopefully make a decision based on that information as to what you feel you want to base your faith on.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to base their faith on hyperbole and hype and all sorts of
Secular stuff.
secular things. A lot of people are prosperity gospel type of people.
Yeah.
Give and then it shall be given to you. That's the Bible. So
Yeah.
you
You
need to
use it, yeah.
overuse that.
So we can say you are a pastor who actually put work. You don't believe in miracles per se, you do, but you realize that wealth is created.
Wealth actually is created. I've just come from Accra, Ghana, and I was very sad that while I was in Accra, Ghana, at the apartment that we stayed, it was surrounded by 6 churches.
Oh, are you sleeping?
And as I made noise on Facebook, some of my usual critics came up and said, you escaped where you're living because there was a mosque. Okay, then I went to a place where now there's a very noisy church. I don't want to name it so that some people don't take offense. And then now I have gone to Ghana and the same thing has followed me.
Yeah.
So we are investing in alleged spirituality instead of working hard.
Alleged spirituality. Hey, eh?
And
Okay.
In fact, the pastor and a few guys are the ones who are getting rich.
That's
The
true.
rest of you are being ripped off in daylight.
That's true.
Because
That's true.
So, Dr. Julius, why don't you speak a bit about the principle of hard work and according to Christianity, and how even from the beginning of Abraham,
Yes.
he was in a desert and what have you, but he still made something.
Became wealthy. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
could you engage us on this thing? Because I've seen a lot of pastors who have V8s and all this kind of thing. And
Yes.
their parishioners or members walk to church or take a bus. And so, what kind of Christianity is that? And how can you help Christians or everyday Kenyan or Africans distinguish between a true representative of God, as it were, and a false one? Because I think the world needs a little bit of fresh air.
That's true.
Well, the Bible does say in the book of John that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Yeah.
So the first question you need to ask yourself is that, are you exposing yourself to the truth?
Okay.
A lot of us are exposing ourselves to lies. Now, secondly, a lot of us expose ourselves to lies because, as the Bible says, we shall get people around us who will say things that tickle our ears. So a lot of us like to be deceived. And now that
It's like a natural inclination.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say, now that we're coming out of electioneering period, you can see the example of politicians who have deceived us like there's no tomorrow, and now they have the opportunity of putting some of those things into practice. So we like to be deceived. So we like to be told, if you just sprinkle this holy water on you, all those problems will go. But guess what? You just need to bring in 1,000 shillings or $50 or so many rands.
Yeah.
And all that is going to do. So that's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
But we do not understand Galatians 6:9 to 10 that says, do not be deceived, God will not be mocked. What a person sows, that they shall reap. So you need to bear in mind, okay? He who sows sparingly will reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will reap bountifully. So we think we can mock God. We're not investing and sowing in our academics. We're not investing and sowing in our businesses. We're not investing and sowing in our relationships.
Yeah.
All we're doing is going to some of these churches, like one of the churches around the apartment where I was. They started their service at 11 p.m. with loud banging of drums.
This is Accra, Ghana.
And it went on until
Oh,
6 a.m.
I was hoping you'd say something that you enjoyed the food and everything, but it
I
seems
did.
things
And
were
it was
tough.
hot. It was hot. My throat was constantly on fire. But now that's an example of sowing and reaping. What are you sowing by going to church at 11 p.m.?
Yes, true,
Beating drums
true,
until 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And that's just one of the churches. And they almost had a 24-hour cycle.
Yeah.
Then you look around and there are no industries. Everybody is basically buying and selling. Okay, imported
Consumption
stuff.
Yes.
economy.
Consumption economy.
And the Ghanaian CD was really hammered. Their economy was really hammered. Just last quarter,
It dropped. The CD
they
was
couldn't even
about-
pay their debts, I think.
The CD was about 6 to the US dollar beginning of this year. It's now at 10. So you look
Almost
at that drop.
40% loss.
Yes, in 1 year.
In 6 months.
Oh, yeah, in 6 months. But I'm just saying within that period. Yeah, but my point is, the people are busy doing what? Going to these services, deceiving themselves that a little bit of sprinkled water and some of these things are automatically going to change or whatever. You are not working in terms of actually doing work that is going to result in, like a farmer sowing
Creation of wealth.
and then reaping.
Yeah.
So my colleagues that I went with, and they can attest to me, went out one day wanting to buy vegetables. They couldn't get vegetables. Skuma, cabbage, nini. Hakuna. Nobody is growing those things.
Yet there's a demand.
There's a demand for those things. And there's land, okay? And in the area where we stayed, with all due respect, and I'm not putting down the citizens of the country, it was like a construction zone because half the place had mansions that were being built, but they are half built. So everybody in that particular area has to build a mansion.
Wow.
Such a pressure to build a mansion.
I think
Wow.
Most Ghanaians, they believe that one of the best ways of investing is in building houses or mansions for rent.
Okay.
So it's their thing. It's like also almost in Kenya here, where people, once they get a little money, the first thing they think about is buying an acre.
Exactly.
Plot.
Acre of
Boroti maguta.
Yes.
on it, beacon to beacon.
Yeah.
So that's what majority of my Ghanaian friends that I know, that's what they pursue with all their heart.
Yeah.
And even Wodemaya.
And we know Demaya. Yeah. Yeah.
So even one of the first things they did was to build a palatial mansion after making proceeds from his YouTube
Yeah. Channel.
Wodemaya, which basically means I love my mother.
I like this idea you're talking about, and thank you for raising it. Every village in Africa, there is either a mosque, a church, or a school. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, because you've done governance. How can we harness the things we have, like just the church, the mosque, the schools, as drivers of positive behavior for creation of wealth? Because if I was to develop Africa, by the way, my money would go to that level where I would say, which school can I partner with? Because the communities respect schools, they respect churches, they respect mosques. So, like, as a reverend, how have you seen any initiatives to create wealth at that level? And is it feasible to say that creating wealth in Africa could be driven by an objective religious setup at the grassroots?
The answer is yes. The challenge is that the leaders in those places don't understand what you've just said. Therefore, they are always going to be out there looking for themselves. So pastors and leaders in some of those rural areas are only interested in squeezing as much tithe out of people. Always creating programs where they can get as much money out of the people. They are not going to be interested in sharing details of entrepreneurship and building wealth and what have you. The schools are focused on only one thing, and that's the curriculum and getting top grades. Details of how you're going to start offering entrepreneurship courses, mentoring them and all that, they don't want. In fact, they feel that it's an infringement onto their reading time and the rest. So most of those schools have no time for us at all. They're not interested in what we have to say. So the schools focus on their curriculum. The churches are focused on getting the tithe. I will not speak for the mosques because it's a while since I've been to a mosque. So I don't want any of my Muslim friends to feel a bit insulted by that. But that is the reality that is on the ground. So as much as you have this knowledge and that information available, and those pulpits and schools are the places where you need to expose them, that is not happening.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen for quite a while.
So, I mean, if you look at African context, the biggest problem is corruption and poverty, and one leads to the other. And when I was trying to personally, impact change, I realized actually the change can only be done through mindset change. And one of those things that actually these leaders you're talking about, they don't want people to be exposed to a better mindset. Like if I get money, even here in Kenya, I think it's quite obvious. Most guys are like, if you get money, they are like 3, 4, 5 path. Number one is maybe get married. Number two, get yourself a plot. If you're able, maybe build something. If you're not able to build, just get a plot or a shamba and
Let it
a land
appreciate.
and let it appreciate.
That works
But
also.
you and I know, if you do the math, to some extent, that's not an investment, right? Right now, there are so many opportunities. Like you can invest in a tech company. You can open a business where you are selling and getting the profit there and then. And over time, actually, it's more than the shamba. But what I think you and I and many other people who at least their mindset is actually changed. What do you think we can do continuously over time? Because if we know that this is not going to change, maybe through political leaders or even leaders in place, in places of worship, what can we do? Because this sounds like a collective approach to ensure that we change over time. It might take some time, but if we start now, or if we continue doing this, how can we do it?
I personally believe in like what you're doing as a solution, where you're able to utilize the media.
Yes.
Because like at the time when we at ACAD were very heavy on the media,
Yeah.
one show where we would go with some of the well-known celebrities and
Yeah.
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
One show is going to reach 500,000 people in Kenya.
Yes.
1 million people, depending on the viewership.
Yeah.
And that now, with time, when you do that over and over again,
Yeah.
people are forced to have to start reckoning with those kind of things. So there was a time we did that quite often on radio. I'm very grateful for the national TV stations who are regularly invited to speak about
Nice.
this. And then the best thing that we offered, the value addition that we offered, was to bring in young people.
Okay.
Not wazés like me, look at me and you're wondering, he's about to collapse.
Yeah.
Bring somebody like this wonderful cameraman here with his beautiful hairstyle and his six-pack under that.
He's ready.
Chief himself, Oliver Were, shout out.
Yeah, you bring guys like Oliver, and now when they speak, the young people are able to say, hey, Bana, Oliver is telling us about ABCD, and he's making it,
Yeah.
And that's now when guys start listening.
What tell us about some of those programs? Maybe which stations were you and how are you aligning it to? I'm assuming this was purely under ACAD because we should also just highlight ACAD a bit. But yeah, please.
Well, what we did is we collaborated with various organizations.
Okay.
For Africa's Talking.
Yeah.
Been
The
there for
communication
us.
and the support.
Yes, specifically Teddy Warrior here for being very kind and generous to us.
Yes.
We would engage with all the main radio and TV stations.
Okay.
KBC in particular.
Nice.
Classic Corporation.
It's going to undergo a renaissance. So we are noticing now with the new,
Administration.
So KBC was really kind to us. They constantly gave us radio time
All right.
and airtime on TV.
Okay.
And then K24 TV,
Okay.
again, we're grateful to them. And then NTV.
Yes.
From there, Citizen, and
Okay.
then K24.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're constantly in all of these particular stations.
Stations. Yeah.
And specifically regarding programs, since we as ACA don't have cash, not cash flash like you guys, we have partners. I like the way you guys are laughing. These guys have arrived, they can laugh like this. Let's keep going. So these guys,
Yeah.
we would work with partners who are ready and willing to support us.
Yes.
For example, when it came to programs like mentoring future engineers, Kenya Power at the time came in as our partners, premises, they
Yeah.
gave us top-notch food, and they allowed their engineers to come and speak to our mentors, allow us to tour their various facilities, specifically at Ruaraka, for example, at the training school.
Okay.
That was a collaboration that went for very many years. We're very grateful.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, there are then philanthropic persons like Dr. Vimal Shah,
Okay.
who would open his entire factory to us and to bring young people to help them understand the value of agriculture, value addition to agriculture, and then he would share his personal story.
Yeah.
And we continue to have a lot of fun with Dr. Vimal Shah. A lot of interest there.
Okay.
So with him, we ran a program called Mentoring Future Leaders. Then we had programs that engaged with universities. Once again, we borrow Dr. Vimal Shah, we borrow Martha Karua.
Yeah.
Come and they speak to university students, again, challenge them on what they can do and how they can go forward. And then over and above that, and I'm very grateful for Teddy for this, we'd go to high schools. And even sometimes we're invited to upper primary schools where we speak now to the young people so that, for example, with Africa's Talking, you do software business.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can now start mentoring and developing young kids who have passionate about coding, software engineering, and we can actually have them come here to your premises, meet some of you guys.
You actually brought them some time back.
Yes.
Yes.
So that makes all the
In Galana, when you were in Galana, in the Galana office.
Now, in Galana office, I specifically brought a young man called Brian. I just like to use him as a case study.
Yes.
He's currently a software engineer with Mercedes-Benz in Berlin.
Nice.
So
Let's celebrate.
this guy is dealing with the latest bugs, which you and I here in Africa will probably see after 10 years.
Yeah. And they're going electric.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're designing software for those guys. And this is a young man who was with us just here the other day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So people like that now can be able to meet you guys as mentors. You can also speak into their lives.
Yep.
Oliver here, who's with the camera, would find somebody who's passionate about videography and like.
Yeah.
You can spend time with him, and hopefully he will smile. And then you can also show him how these things work.
Yes.
And guys have actually built careers from all these things.
Sure.
So that what happens is that these guys, as they are going forward, we've given them skills, life skills, so that they're able to identify opportunities, take advantage of those opportunities, actually capitalize on them. So young people like Brian, like Michael, who got married in Ghana the other day, Ernest, who was at Harvard and is now with Facebook, these guys are not hunting for jobs. Quite honestly,
They're creating jobs.
not only are they creating jobs because they are entrepreneurial, but quite honestly, when they actually want the security of jobs, we are talking about looking at 3 or 4 offers at a time.
That's amazing.
Other guys can't even get their foot in the door in terms of looking for employment. We have these young guys, moving from one employer to another almost at will because of the kind of skills and life skills that they have. They understand how to, introduce themselves. They have built up a particular profile. They've been intentionally mentored. Whereas, when I'll use the example of Brian, while now he's enjoying himself in Berlin, okay, some of his classmates who graduated from the local universities here have been unemployed for 3-4 years.
Yeah, it's a big situation.
Yeah, so where is the difference here? Unfortunately, most of us are not able to see the elephant in the room. One set of people have been intentionally mentored for success.
Yeah.
The others is patapotea,
Yeah.
waiting for you to introduce them to an uncle who will introduce them to whatever. They have the mindset I had of let me go to this big shot and ask him anipatie kitu.
Wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's full circle.
Yeah.
It's 1989. You are out of college and you're wondering my next step.
Yes.
Then we are in 2022. There's a whole batch of guys. So what you're basically demystifying is the fact that it's not necessarily that this unemployment problem is a 2022 problem. It has always been there. But also, so have the solutions.
Well, the thing is that there are always new problems that are coming up all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah.
Those new problems cannot be sorted out by old
Yes.
mindsets like mine.
Yes.
We need young guys like you and Oliver and Kay here, and Teddy, okay,
Yes.
who have new approaches to these particular new problems.
Yes.
You cannot put old wine into new wineskins. And
Yes,
vice
yes,
versa.
yes.
You need to be able to think how to do that. So when
Yes.
we are very strong on young people being able to be solution oriented,
Yes.
and being able to communicate those solutions in a particular format,
Yes.
I lose 80% of the young people because they say, "Why are you forcing me to use this?"
Yeah.
Me, I'll do things my way.
My way.
Now, in doing things your own way, I'll give you a real practical example. We as ACAD had the opportunity of regularly being invited to speak to the so-called Matiangi A students who are chosen by Equity Group Foundation,
Okay.
who have gotten the A's and are
Yes.
going to now be taken to the Equity Leadership Foundation program.
Yeah.
And some of them are going to have opportunities of being sponsored to go out and study overseas.
Yes.
We have had the opportunity of speaking to these kids. And one of the things I have done on a number of occasions is on behalf of Dr. Vimal Shah and Dr. James Mwangi, we've said if any of you will come with a serious solution to a particular problem that's out there, these two are willing to fund that particular solution we brought up
Yes.
to the tune of up to 10 million shillings.
Wow. That's $100,000. Yeah.
Now, when you are talking to a kid who has probably come from school and has suffered and has never even seen 1,000 shillings or never seen 10,000 shillings, why do none of these kids step up with a solution to a problem that they have seen? And these are some of, with all due respect, this is the mindset that we have around where people.
And these are the smartest kids.
They're the smartest. I think it was 0.0065%.
Everyone who sat the exams.
Yeah.
Wow.
So why is it then that you have sat these exams, but are not willing to look across your shoulder and see a problem there and devise a solution. When we as ACAD are helping mentor these young people strategically, one of the things that causes them to be unnoticed by the top schools is that over time, they have been solution providers for current problems in their community. Others are just interested in getting A's only. A's is just one of the
It's the end in all.
It's the ultimate. In fact, I want to speak a bit about that. So one thing that Dr. Weche should engage the listeners is the ACAD way, the way you get the young learners.
Yes.
And what you input in them so that you transform them from what they are to the young leaders for Africa that you want them to be. Eventually they become global young leaders. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes.
But also what I wanted to state, because you're speaking about solutions, one of the ACAD mentors called Simon Joy, who was also my mentor when I was at Lenana, when I asked him in some of the talks we're doing during Corona time, I think it was every Saturday, ACAD mentees, what is your understanding? Who is an engineer? So I asked him, or we asked him, and he said an engineer is engineering is providing solutions. Engineering is not just simply tinkering with technology or tools.
Yes.
The premise of engineering is finding solutions that affect you, your community, or your workplace where you are, so that they're more efficient and effective
Yes.
in arriving at those solutions. And the school system here has made it all wrong. That gosh, you must be good in physics, you must be good in chemistry or math. That's the only way you end up being an engineer, because that's the only thing you do. And they've forgotten the overall idea of engineering, which is finding solutions. See that? And in terms of him saying about packaging the student, because for example, Mike Motier, when he was leaving for African Leadership University, he had graduated from Dagoretti High School. I think he got a C or a C minus. I don't know what grade he got.
Wow.
So in Kenya, you become very dejected.
They call you failure, but politely.
Politely, exactly. So which is wrong. It's traumatizing.
Yeah.
So Julius packaged him, and he was on his way to ALU, which he just finished. And he became a very dedicated mentee to so many other people.
Interesting.
Like he was being mentored. He made himself available
Okay.
to be mentored. And what people here in Kenya right now is big on mentoring and coaching ATC.
Yes.
When I was in New York, there was a particular body called Sponsors for Education Opportunity. It helped lead as many Kenyans as possible, or Africans or people of color, to Wall Street. It started in 1980 with 20 people. There was only one Kenyan in that cohort who had joined Wall Street at that time. His name is Mr. Mutuma Marangu. I think he's the eldest daughter of Professor Leah Marangu. He's at African Nazarene University.
Yeah.
But now, Julius, having thought ahead through his work at Loresho Community Church, I believe, he was already doing that to the likes of the children of the late Dr. Robert Oko, etc.
Wow.
We'll speak about that.
Yeah, you need to talk about that and the ACAD way.
Exactly. But I want to bring out something that was said before I stop. So Graham keeps on saying about this idea that Africa, in the villages, there's the schools, the churches, and the mosques, and of course the markets, which
and the markets.
So these are the
Thank you
four
very much.
things that in every African villages.
Yes.
I have had the extraordinary opportunity of being in my village for 2.5 years. And I was not born in the village.
Yes.
Neither did I grow in the village. I'm a born Tao, born in Nairobi, at Kenyatta National Hospital. But my time in the village showed me this clearly.
Yes.
That we already have an existing infrastructure in Africa. It does not need to be like the Western infrastructure.
Yes.
But it's there. Markets,
Yes.
churches, mosques, and schools.
Yes.
And in fact, you can use all the four free of cost.
Imagine.
Unless the government is coming to ask you for taxes in the market. All these others, you can use them for anything you want.
Yes.
If you come from that community, free of cost.
Yes.
And in fact, if you engage people nicely, they can actually bring for you food to feed the people who have come for your meeting.
Wow.
Including porridge or
Because that's the African way.
yeah.
If you look at the narratives for how Africa used to work,
Exactly.
Africa has always worked.
Exactly. So that's why I like
And that's how it used to work.
exactly, and that's why I like that a lot. That's the African way. Also, Africa's talking, and he's Akkad as well, the founder. And
Yeah.
we'll talk shortly about the Akkad way.
Yeah.
But I want to also emphasize the idea is that when I was doing all those, I realized that one of the biggest problem with the people in the village, even the older grannies, they did not know how to read, especially the grannies. Their grandfathers could be able to read. And in fact, even right now, we have a challenge in both the Senate and the Kenya National Assembly. Some MPs cannot read the oath.
I
fact,
saw
they
that.
want it to be repeated. They want it to be repeated for them like wedding vows.
Yeah.
So that the
Can you
priest
imagine?
says fast, then they read. So this tells you one
So
thing.
how will they pass the policies?
Exactly. That's the challenge. So my effort of being in the village, which Julius visited a couple of times, is that I want to begin from the beginning. Nice. Give the villagers Wi-Fi, courtesy also of Africa's Talking and other partners or friends.
Yep.
And number two, teach or show the youngsters from
Share
the
knowledge.
ECD how to read. Basically that. And courtesy of one of my friends called Rachel Panajitapala, who was with me in school in New Jersey. She wants to engage and has started a feeding program for the ECD of 84 students,
Oh.
which is $200 a month
Yeah.
to feed these kids. Because when I was in hospital at Avenue Hospital in Kisumu last year, one of my doctors, Dr. Witi, told me, oh gosh, if you keep on using all your money to do all these things, you'll constantly be running out of money.
Yeah.
So he told me he read a book called Wrongology, that if everything goes wrong, including me that time.
Wrongology.
It's a fantastic book.
I need
Check
to look
out.
for it, man.
Yeah, so he told me, given that I'm lying in the hospital like this, I can't do anything.
If
It
everything
just
went
goes-
wrong.
No, goes wrong. Not went, goes. Actually does go wrong. He said something good always comes out of it if you look for it.
Interesting. Wow.
So when I was in that bed at the hospital, he told me, Teddy, given that you have so many friends you went to school in the US and all that, just ask them to do some of your projects. And I thought this was a joke. And then I reached out to a few friends, and all of them, at least 3 of them said, oh gosh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do the other. So I started with 2 as pilots. I asked Rachel Panajitapala, she's half Ghanaian, half Greek.
Oh, nice.
She told me, Teddy, I want to sponsor the feeding program for 84 students in the ECD school next to your village.
Nice.
So she's been doing that faithfully.
Yes.
And then my other friend called Rema Kasule, who I'll bring her here. She was just recently with Secretary Clinton.
Yes.
She's given me books called Zik and Micah. They teach you how to read and also help the young Africans be self-confident in their own skin,
Yes.
and also helps them to do community-based young leadership projects.
That's interesting.
And that was sponsored by MasterCard Foundation.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that the heart and soul of Africa is in the villages. And that's why, for me, for the next coming many years, I'll be dedicating a lot of time in the villages of Africa, beginning with Western Kenya, so that as the tide rises with Africa's talking,
Yeah.
we also raise these
Other
villages,
boats
other
rise.
boats,
Yeah.
and these boats are actually these villages. And rather than having people come to my village when I'm dead, when I'm being buried, I prefer in whatever state my village or home is, for them to come when I'm there,
Yeah.
so that we can start building this Africa that we want to build based on the realities of the majority of Africans.
Interesting.
And because of that, given that they didn't have Wi-Fi, and I kept on telling them, if you guys don't have Wi-Fi, you're like an otongolo, which is a coin, dropped. Listen to this. Dropped in the long drop pit latrines, never to be seen, never to be found, and never to be known that you existed. So I want these African villages to be known that they exist, and I want them to connect and engage with the other,
With the world, basically.
And that's why, courtesy of Africa's Talking, I bought the first Wi-Fi to be bought in any school in Nyabondo.
Wow.
Which was 10,000 shillings, and then which is about $100 USD, and at a cost of 5,700 per month. This will completely
Change
have
people's
Wi-Fi
lives,
and that can power 24 phones or laptops. So that was the beginning of this effort. And hopefully when Julius is away in Dubai, we'll be having him engage that particular school and another school in Nyabondo, which he went to, because I want to bring the world to these kids at a minimum. In fact, at some point, I want Africa's Talking employees to actually come to my village and engage these kids in as simple things as showing them this is a smartphone, this is how it works. This is a laptop, this is how it works. This is how you do videography, this is how you mix things. And we start from there so that these kids, when they go to America or the US or other countries, they don't get shocked when they now suddenly see a mic like this and say, what is this? And we don't want Africans to be viewed as such. You see that? And so I'm grateful to Julius for that. And I'd like you to share the ACAD way, the essays, the interviews, the pitch, the elevator pitch, so that people know the substance of what you inculcate in these young stars from Africa.
Oh, is the ball back in my court?
Yes. And with examples, like Brian and the other guys who are doing very well.
This feels like a rugby ball that has been given a suicide pass. And you guys, especially MK, is the fullback waiting
To tackle.
We basically have an intentional mentorship system. Where we start with Proverbs 29:18. That says, where there's no vision,
People perish.
So we challenge the young people on a vision. Most of them have absolutely no vision. The vision is just a joke, I just want to pass, or I just want to be successful, or whatever. You need to be a little more specific than that. And then from there, Hosea 4:6 that says people perish for lack of knowledge. So it doesn't help for you to have a vision and then you have no knowledge of how to get there. But now the question is, where do you get this knowledge from? A lot of people, as I said again, are not interested in truth. So they're chasing falsehoods, and that's why we have a lot of young people doing gambling. I was about to say a particular company name. Let me not say that company.
Although, to be honest, there's a lot of people view that as a job.
And Graham, I'd be happy if you could engage in some of the biblical counter arguments.
Yes, the Lord's come from the Lord.
We will have Graham's session. Don't worry about that.
But definitely, this is very interesting.
So once you have a vision and then you have knowledge, then now the next thing we do is we challenge you on strategy. Because again, Proverbs 22:3 says, a wise man sees trouble coming and hides himself.
Yes.
The foolish one goes on and suffers for it. So we have all these young people who are not aware that they are like a person who's been tied on the railway tracks and the train is coming. So they don't have that idea. So when the train runs over them, that's why they start wondering, now, come on, what happened here? So for example, those who are only tied to the railway tracks of thinking that school is only to give you academic success and therefore it is okay to cheat and get an A, they think that is the only thing that you need in life. Unfortunately, it's not. We now come back and say, wait a minute, what is your vision for life? What is the knowledge that you're bringing here? So if you now have a knowledge about it, we'll then challenge you and say, who are now the leaders who are in your life for whom you aspire to be like? That's why you've had me generously quoting the two examples, Honorable Martha Karua and Dr. Vimal Shah. Because those are people who have seriously succeeded where they are. Honorable Martha Karua as a woman in the field of leadership.
And law. And
many other things.
And politics.
So who are we aspiring to be like? Because leadership is supposed to be based on two things. Who are you inspiring? And now I'm just forgetting the other. Yes, who are you aspiring to be like? So leadership is influence. So who are you influencing? So that's where the aspiration need comes in. And then as a result of that, how are now the followers, being inspired to actually do? Because if you're inspired and then you don't do, then work done is equals to zero. So we want these young people to meet a number of leaders like now yourselves in the IT space. We don't want you to just give moving speeches, so motivated, which is the difference between motivation talks. I mean, a number of motivational talks are just hot air. But now having been motivated...
hot air.
That's a tricky one.
Okay, let's not go to the Supreme Court. But now, my point is, do not just be, motivated at that particular point and then go to sleep.
Yes.
What are you going to do? Because faith without works
It's dead, yeah.
So a lot of people have faith. Yes, we shall do this, we shall do the other, but they are
Don't take the
no
first
works.
step. Yeah.
They don't even take the first step. So as mentors now, we hold them accountable. The ACAD educational group has this, what you're calling the ACAD way, and thank you for that, where we challenge you now to take those steps, being inspired, okay, to be like the leaders who are there. So the leaders are showing you where to go, and meanwhile, you have what we call a peer mentorship system.
Okay.
So like the way the two of you are, sitting here and leading this so well.
Yeah.
It's a tag team, literally. Okay, if you get tired, he'll be able to sort you out, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Life is not supposed to be lived alone. And in that regard, I'm so glad that Teddy has often been there for us guys. Really supported me personally.
Okay.
And sometimes, I'm sorry to use bad language, kicked my rear end when I'm getting,
When you are derailing.
Yes.
Many years ago, I used to be a recipient.
When you are derailing.
So you need somebody to do that. So Teddy has done it well for me. It might be painful at the time, as Hebrews 12:5 says.
Yeah.
Discipline at the time is painful, but to those who are schooled in it, it yields a peaceful fruit of an upright life.
Yeah.
So through our peer mentorship system, if you look at now the ACAD young people who have succeeded, we created this network where, quite honestly, these are guys who didn't know each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
And since at the time we had a lot of support from particular schools like Lanana and Alliance, Kenya High, and the rest, we pulled the youth from those particular schools to form a network where they can hold each other accountable.
Okay.
And so as they hold each other accountable, it's not a matter of me breathing fire down their throats all the time and kicking them on the rear end, okay? They are actually now to begin aspiring, because now suddenly you realize, hey, so-and-so now has gotten an admission to Harvard. What am I doing here? Okay? So now somebody else now works hard and he doesn't get into Harvard, but guess what? He gets into Stanford, or he gets into UPenn, or, those kind of things. So when we create that kind of environment that allows that kind of positive competition, these young people now form such strong networks that they actually last a lifetime. So people wonder, what magic have I done? It's not magic that I have done. I've just taken them through those steps. There's a vision, there's knowledge, there's a strategy, there are peers that they're able to work with, and then through that, with our own documentation, which again some people have an issue with, our documentation is going to help you to, for example, understand how to introduce yourself.
Oh, nice.
So we have a profile writing system that first of all talks about what is your call to fame, what are you currently doing, what's your history, and what are your aspirations. And you need to be able to communicate these, especially in an elevator pitch of about 30 seconds. Wow. So some people come and say, hey, Bana Umze is hassling us, he's making life difficult. But guess what? If you can't pitch and introduce yourself in 30 seconds, what are the chances that you're going to be able to pitch and be able to introduce a solution that you have, even if you are given 2 minutes?
True.
I have taken some people to Dr. Vimal Shah, and then he asks them 1-2 questions, and then he turns to me and says, Dr. Weche, do you have any other young people with ideas?
Wow.
At that time, I've fallen flat on my face. I've got egg on my face. Because these young people, when I'd advise them on how to prepare, they've looked at me and said, Sasa mzee, kwani unatuambia nini? What are you telling us? We know all these things. And then you go there and he asks you 1, 2, 3 questions, and you can't sort yourself out. On the other hand, we've got other youth like Yuri and Boniface who have just come back from Stanford University.
Nice.
They're currently on full scholarship at the Africa Leadership University, but they were there at Stanford for a summer program.
Nice.
These guys are jumping in and out of aircraft like there's no tomorrow, and yet they're still in the university.
Yes.
That is what intentional mentorship does for them. Those of us who went to...
And I've seen them getting some accolades even. I think they even have a startup now.
They have a startup. They have already got a podcast that is having the likes of Dr. Vimal Shah on it and many other leaders in the African continent and the rest. These guys are so self-motivated because they have a vision for where they're going to. They have a knowledge of how to get there. Their strategy is working. They didn't just wake up and start doing silly things. So when we start holding their feet to the fire in terms of this is what you promised that you want to do, majority of us Kenyans and our youth are very good at giving political promises. Once again,
They watch.
air.
Environment.
They learn from the best.
hot air, So somebody comes and says, I want to be a neurosurgeon, What do they know about neurosurgery?
Okay.
So the other day, for example, in one of the schools that I was in, giving my usual, pep talks and motivational talks. And some of the students, as usual, came up and said, these were high school students, want to be a neurosurgeon. So I said, okay, if you want to be a neurosurgeon and you're so bold about that, and you're in Form 3, okay, tell me, what actually is a neurosurgeon? They have no idea. Then I take them, I say, let's go further. What is a neuron? Before we go now to surgery of the neuron. Because the neurosurgeon is operating on the neuron. Guys do not know about the differentiated cell that is called a neuron and the basic properties of a neuron vis-a-vis an epithelial cell or any other cell that
biology
is
now.
there. Oh, sorry, I'm now...
That's not because we want people to learn about neurotransmitters, including serotonin, which is activated by morning sunlight and all that, because we also have issues right now with mental health that is pervading the country and the world. So basic biology would teach them that you need a dose of serotonin to
sunshine
and that's activated by the sunshine in the morning. So the sun is not just in the morning to wake you up, but it's actually to activate all the other neurotransmitters as well. So that you're healthy. And this is also some of the basis of neurosurgery. And in fact, that has brought me to a very good thought. I have a very dear friend called Dr. Beverly Jebet-Chesrem. She's a consultant neurosurgeon at Aga Khan.
Yeah, she came for one of our
events, having studied in UK for almost 17 years to get that. So in fact, we'll
bring her on the podcast. She's been here for one of our events.
Actually two.
Two events,
So thank you, Julius, for bringing that.
Yes.
And one of the things that when you're speaking about Yuri and
Boniface,
I think they're also now international DJs. They can qualify for that. And taking it, when I was growing up, at least it was almost taken that if you're a DJ, you're the biggest singer on the block. So you're not even there.
And then today they are paid more than doctors. You know, this life is funny.
So I'm happy about that. And I think the school in Colorado, which was started by my friend, that they initially went to, and can you walk them through? And they went to the school and they would wait tables, but they were determined to do it, and they finished. So it's an experimental school.
They went to Watson Institute. What a lot of people don't understand is that the US has very organized summer programs over the summer program. Okay,
interesting.
Now these particular programs and this particular Watson Institute one, and my daughter went to one called Lean Gap.
Okay,
they are very difficult to get in.
Okay.
Very, very difficult to get in. But when you go in and they take you through these entrepreneurial programs and training.
First of all, it's definitely networks of a lifetime.
The elite schools.
Because they're elite schools.
Based on the legacy plans.
So, for example, where my daughter went to the Lean Gap program, they took 40 students
from the world,
from around the world. She was the only Black African.
Wow,
which is really sad.
No, in reality, it's a reality.
So where are the Black Africans? But now, for my daughter Christy to actually go to Lean Gap, she went to Lean Gap because of other mentees earlier in our program who had wanted to go there, but life was such that they were not able to raise the $8,000 they needed to go there. So one of the things that I then learned, because for me I'm a progressive learner, is also teach these kids how to fundraise. So when my daughter hit me with this invoice of $8,000, I said, wait a minute, I have taught you how to fundraise. Wow. Let us see you raise this fund. I think, Teddy, you're also one of those who contributed to her.
Yes, but also I told you a way of fundraising, of breaking it down into smaller pieces, so that if you tell me $500, it's better than if you tell me 8,000.
Exactly.
You can get as many as 16 people each
to fund it.
So now for my daughter to eventually be able to raise $8,000 equivalent. Okay, over a 3-month period. And she was 15 years old.
Wow.
I get very upset when I've had people coming to me and telling me we want to raise 20,000 shillings to Meshindwa. So I say, if mentored kids, 15 years, she's able to raise that amount. I didn't have that money. But she understood how to present herself to potential, people who are interested in her cause. She knew how to write her profile, share her profile. She knew how to present her need. She knew how to do, and she did this on her own. So what would happen is a few parents and a few other people that I know, like Simon, would call me very upset and say, Bana, boss, ikiwa mambo ni mbaya, so you call me and tell me that you need money.
It's an arambe.
I said, no, it's not mambo ni mbaya. She has a program that she wants to run and she's taking the responsibility for
and
it.
getting the skills of a lifetime.
And getting the skills of a lifetime. So you can, in your calling me, I'll confirm that yes, it's true. It's not a scam. It's true that she actually needs to raise this money. And please, I'm requesting her to have that conversation with you guys. This girl raised that money, went for that program, turned 16 after the program in Los Angeles, California.
Wow.
The average young person who is in school does not even have a passport. The average young person is not able to tell us anything about how the world really looks like, because here's a young girl who's able to get onto a flight by herself, fly to New York, okay, meet our mentors in New York, do a few things with them, go to Baltimore, meet our other mentors there. Bear in mind she's 15.
Yeah, 15.
Fly across from Baltimore to San Francisco, okay, stay there for that program over that period, or was it 8 weeks? Get onto a bus by herself, go all the way to Los Angeles.
Wow.
Stay with our other mentor there for another 2 weeks, and then fly back. And then the greatest joke about it is, her mother was very concerned.
Isn't this dangerous?
She's missing school because she missed half of second term.
Wow.
So she's missing school. Her headmistress, I don't want to mention the school, was very pissed off with me.
But it was a local Kenyan
local
high
Kenyan
school.
where she was doing KCSE.
Wow.
The headmistress said, I'm the most irresponsible parent I've ever met.
Yes.
How do you give your daughter permission to go across the seas like this? So guess what? In the next entrance exams, who gets the highest marks?
Are you serious?
Yes, the kid who has not been there. Why? Because she has been motivated by that opportunity. Her eyes have opened. Her life skills have grown. She's got to understand what geography is when we're discussing latitude and longitude and timelines and time zones and whatnot. Okay,
and seasons.
And seasons and all those. She's not just reading it theory in the book. Okay, she's got to understand how governments work, as and when you have to present a passport.
Your papers, yeah.
What does it mean to present a passport? What does it mean to get a visa? What does it mean? She has understood those kind of processes. Let me tell you, she's gone through the curriculum. Other than now specifics of chemistry and titration and the rest, she has gone through literally what the school academic programs are supposed to be teaching us.
Expects her to have.
As a result of that, with all due respect, having been harassed for 4 years, being told you're the worst parent in this school, your child is absenteeism is through the roof.
Yes.
94 of them did KCSE. She was the second highest in the school.
Wow.
How does that happen unless what we are actually doing works?
And which
That's amazing.
And which comes to the big.
So the life in high school is much richer with this experience. I wish I had this.
Me too, man.
And which is why one of the most important things I wanted Julius to do this exit interview before he leaves, because I'm a believer. Like initially, we were early believers of Africa's talking.
Yes.
Even when it was nothing,
Yes.
and we grew it and we built it and we're very proud of it.
Yeah.
And in the same way, as I told you, I had an experience of being in Sponsors for Education Opportunity.
Yeah.
They walked us through and we worked in Wall Street, and also their financial philanthropic organizations. Like I also worked for Edwin Gould Foundation, from the robber baron Edwin Gould, who built America but left most of his money to help
Whoa.
people like us and
Serious,
others.
eh?
Yes, Edwin Gould, look him up.
Yes.
So Michael Oshowitz is one who started Sponsors for Education Opportunities, a Jewish man, probably is now in his 80s or 90s.
Yes.
But what I wanted to say in short is that what Julius, you've just said, that's the ACAD way. That's the primary reason I wanted you to even come here and articulate it, so that people see that there's something fundamentally wrong with the educational system. And they may reject your way or all these kind of things, but it works.
Yes.
It's proven that it works, because even Ernest Ochieng or Odhiambo, Ernest Ochieng, when I first met him, I don't think he qualified to go to Harvard at the first time, but you panel beat him. And all these kind of things.
Interesting.
So
until he arrived at Harvard.
Yes.
So he was a JQuat or what university?
No, he
Yeah,
was,
tell us about that story.
No, Ernest was one of the young men who was our mentees from Alliance. He came in actually in our gap year program.
Okay.
So we didn't engage with him within high school, but after high school we have our gap year program.
Okay.
So he came into the gap year program and he was very motivated, incredibly motivated young man. And we gave him a lot of hard work to do, honestly. This young man was living in Rongai. We have events that are starting in CBD, Nairobi CBD at 7 a.m. This guy has to wake up at 4:30 a.m.
Wow.
At 5:30 now be getting a matatu to come into town so that he can be able now to start getting involved in this program.
Yeah.
Other people want to roll out of bed at 10, and take it easy.
Yeah.
Okay. So we took him through. I like the way you're laughing.
Do I feel like that's me?
It's identifying him.
Even me.
I'm
Continue.
I'm going too close to the bone. I need to ease off.
No, carry on.
Yeah, so my point is that through that gap year program,
Yeah.
he gets to meet all these top mentors.
Yeah.
Okay, he gets to meet people like Teddy here. He gets to meet Dr. Vimal Shah. We push him. He gets to understand how to introduce himself, how to aspire highly, how to present himself, how to, like one of the things I'm sorry, we're very unfair. We make jokes of him because the first time we put him on national TV, he turned up in a T-shirt. That's one of the things we've never forgiven him for. But now that he's with Facebook and he's with Mark Zuckerberg,
things are serious. He can wear his
he can wear a
T-shirt.
T-shirt.
That's crazy.
And in fact, funny enough, now he has gone to tweed jackets.
Oh,
So
nice.
he was here recently,
Yes.
and I saw him with a tweed jacket at when Julius organized for us to meet them at
Parkland Sports Club.
Sports Club.
Yes.
And majority of the events are done at MOW Club in South Sea.
Yes.
Because that's where Julius has his home,
Yes.
original home near there.
Yes.
But what I wanted to say about also Eric is that Eric subsequently went to Harvard and then now works for Facebook. So I asked him when I saw him there.
Using the ACAD way.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
It does work.
Yes.
It's verifiable, it's scalable, and it's repeatable.
Yes.
So it's a scientific, based on scientific outcomes
Yes.
and results.
Yes.
And so I stand with that. But so I'd ask him, when you met, I asked him, have you met Zuckerberg? They said, okay, well, we just met on the
Zoom or
water.
Skype.
No, water hole.
At the water cooler.
No, at the water cooler. So which is a nice thing. So I said hi, what I'm doing. Then I said, what did he ask you? And things like that. And so at least he shared a few things that he was in Harvard. And of course, Zuckerberg dropped out of Harvard.
Interesting.
He's at Harvard, people now working for him.
Nice.
So they had that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
But what I was just trying to prime in his mind is that is he using that opportunity to actually meet the person who began the company?
Yes.
Because it will be very sad to be at such a place and you don't meet the creators or the founders and engage them, because as an African, my ideology is, because Julius has talked about asking the mentees to have a vision.
Yeah.
My vision is always for Africans to go back, to go to the States or wherever they will go in the world, and then to come back and build Africa. If they don't want to build the whole of Africa, they can build their village. If they don't want to build their village, they can build their immediate family members. It's extremely important, because when people were asking me now about the Queen of England, Julius and I went to a school, it was called the Duke of York, basically named after the father of Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth II Rex, as they call her, ER. So my question was that if some people ask, did Britain or Her Majesty do wrong by conquering or colonizing Africa?
And that's a big debate right now.
It's a rhetorical question I'm asking, but I need you to think about it for a while. And also, what prevents the African, now that we know what we know, to claw back on what was taken from us or eaten? Why are we waiting? And what are we waiting for? So that's the question that I have for the listeners. And then I'll take it back to Julius, because his reason for starting ACAD and all that is also to equip these youngsters. And just like a prophet who is not appreciated at home, or because the biggest pastime for Africans is waiting. I'm also an African. They are waiting.
And going to church.
They are waiting. They're waiting.
Says the Reverend.
They're waiting. They're waiting for Julius to be there tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. And then I say, this is an exit interview. He's going to Dubai. Basically, this is more or less immigrating to Dubai to be with his better half. So I said, let us have the Kenyans and the Africans who've been here, because Julius has been here for 12 years. And 12 years is such a long time. Why would you now start chasing him last minute? And he was here for all the 12 years. And I have almost a similar story. Now, when I had some time to do something, some people know, now that I want to come back and rebuild, and we help take Africa's talking to the next level, some people are now chasing me, saying, want to do X, Y, Z, what? Because now they've seen me on some videos for 80 and all that. So now suddenly,
guys are like, we have something for you to do.
So I'm asking them, if I had the time to engage you and you didn't want to engage me, unintentionally, I've been in the village and I'll continue being in the village because I want Africans to learn that we need to build our own countries. And our countries start from the villages. Some people may not be able to take the villages or live there, but Kisumu airport is just 45 minutes from my village if you are driving at the right speed, right? And then the truth is that you have internet. And if you're a disciplined worker or person, then you can work remotely and execute from anywhere in the world. And that's why I'm keen. Like when we did this a few months ago, we did something close to when he had the fireside with Professor Betangen Demo.
Yes.
He shared about his life, things that people didn't even know. And in fact, he even cautioned us about this hunger and famine that we're having now. And that was on May 31st. He said it with his own mouth. That guys, from August, September, we're going to have a big famine. And if the government doesn't do X, Y, Z, come February...
There'll be no food in November.
Yeah, we'll be in such trouble. And this was said here. And now he's working in Brussels, in Belgium. What I'm trying to say is, Africans, my fellow Africans, please engage each other so that the wealth of Africa is also used in Africa and benefits also Africa. You see that when the person is still there. Because there's no point of coming then to the funeral, then you're crying so much, pretending. But the person was there
And they're
walking
now all
amongst
along.
you all along. And you're not engaging them. So that's why for Julius, I think Eric Ochieng, among others, now is working for Facebook in the US. And he keeps on coming back home to support his family and also his friends. We also have, which you can speak briefly about so that they see the varied examples, because I had the opportunity to, the number 10 of 17 children. And my father was was very present, and he liked engaging us to work with him. So my job was, my father had a Renault TS16, white in color, KMN 547.
Wow.
Mine was cleaning the wheels. And I polished those wheels like there was no tomorrow. And the other job that I had was to water my father's favorite plants.
Interesting.
And the third job that I had at home was to polish my father and mother's shoes spotlessly. This was my daily task. And the reason why I'm saying this is because ACAD is also task-oriented.
Yes.
These kids are given something to do and a structure to follow, because some of them may not have that structure or may never have even seen that structure, including even just holding their forks and spoons properly. And I'll ask him to speak about the latest, because the last one in MOW and the kids came from Madare.
Yes.
So he'll speak a bit about that. But I wanted you to speak about the idea that you've been a father figure to them. And what lately I've noticed, which has happened because of the passing of time, some of the mentees are getting married.
Yeah.
And they're about 2 or 3 this week. Or 2, I think 2, Eric and...
there are 3 actually.
Michael and somebody. So you could also share about those, because we want ACAD and yourself to be an embodiment of what can be if young African youngsters, somebody holds their hands or shows them the way. And because even for me, part of the reason why we're here at Africa's Talking is that by the grace of the Almighty, in 2000, I had the grace to hold the hands of the founders of Africa's Talking. So you see that? And these things do work. So, and it's not magic. Sometimes I may play it, or you might think it's magic, that you're actually doing it yourself. But at those points, I usually let people to lead themselves. They'll be thinking they're leading themselves, but I'm actually leading them. So that's my style. See that? So you can speak about those 3 people and how you've created a structure, including for some of my favorites like Chama and her sister, because the first time when I came to ACAD and they encountered me on the Zoom, they kept on asking, who is this guy? Maybe you can start with that.
Whenever people ask that question, I tell them, you have no clue Then I asked them, do you really want to know? Do you want to pay the price of knowing who this guy is? Because it's not just academic knowledge. You'll have to put things into practice.
Yeah.
And I love it when now Teddy is able to ask serious, hard-pointed questions, especially like now, over the last year or so, through his I Am poem, where he's able to have young people understand and express who they are, based on where they come from, what is their history, what is their lineage. And then that, for example, is one of the key things that we do in our ACAD way. We want young people to be able to know who they are and to be able to express it and to do so confidently. Because you can't want to go to some of these top institutional places, that where you'll be the only black person in a sea of white people, and you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And you're not even proud of where you come from and you're proud of your lineage. And by the way, that's one of the key things that will come out in your essays when you're,
I was actually going to talk about the essay. Yes.
Yeah.
This is a practice towards it.
This is a practice. So some of my young people, when we invite them now to write these essays, they feel too lazy. They're not willing to do that. They did it for KCSE, English composition.
Yeah.
Why should they write any further essays? I say, Sawa, you don't feel like writing essays? Don't write any essays. So guess what happens at the end of the gap year program? They need a recommendation for, they've got they make an application such and such a place.
Yeah.
And so now they share with me what the application essay looks like. And I look at this thing and I laugh. And one of the saddest things that I used to tell some of those guys is that, look, and this was much earlier on, you have finished Form 4, you're writing an application essay to some of these top places. My daughter is in standard 6. She can do a better job of writing an essay like this. She's not even been in high school. So please, for things like this, feel free not to use the ACAD name. Do not say you're even associated with that. Because you refuse to write essays. All you remembered on writing essays was for KCSE. And maybe all you're doing was copy-pasting at that time, So quite honestly... So quite honestly, tafadhali, relax. Now, when you write essays, and you'll probably hear this from some of the mentees, they write me a 2-page essay, I reply with a 6-page response. So some of them feel crushed. Because I am analyzing everything that they have written. Well, guess what? I am analyzing it so that you can know how to improve. I'm not analyzing it because I'm trying to show you I'm cleverer than you and I can be able to do better. Yeah. It is when these young people go through that process. If we just use a gap year as an example, there are 10 particular core subjects that will take them through. So at the end of that period, you should have written a minimum of 10 essays. But if I have responded to your essay and I've shown you where the mistakes are, you need to rewrite the essay. Chances are you're not going to get it right the first 5 times. But by the 5th time, now you'll have understood what it means to, to flow like this, to write this, to do the other. Okay? So that if and when you're now making an application essay, to Harvard, to Stanford, to UPenn, to Yale, or whatever it is, to Cambridge. You already understand how to express who you are. You understand how to address the issues they are asking. This is not KCSE. This is different. Okay, the marking scheme in quotes is radically different.
Exactly. And actually, Julius, let the viewers know that the essay is just 500 words. So you have to be very pithy. You cannot start telling me all your problems and all your passions. 500 words. You need to hit the nail on the head and distinguish yourself among possibly a pile of 10,000 applicants. So you really must be a standout and an exceptional. And this kind of is, and in fact, this is a skill you'll use for the rest of your life. Because even when you're presenting, because offices and places of work and other places, those have office politics and what have you. So the way you express yourself determines whether you sail or you sink. And so this is a lifelong skill and a lifelong learning skill that you then get. Because, believe it or not, and this, because now we're speaking about the Queen Elizabeth's time that she's gone. The truth of the matter is that some Westerners may judge you harshly if they look at your document and say, "Oh gosh, look at the way this African is." Maybe think. Then they can just trash your stuff. And when you write for interviews, to be interviewed at a job, there's a piece of writing they ask for. So they ask that to see how you think and if you think clearly. Because what Julius is not necessarily mentioning, some people will tell him he's writing well, but what often people even here in Kenya forget is that the person who is writing well is actually thinking very clearly and thinking very well
Yes.
as a consequence of their intellect, intelligence, and knowledge. So that is forgotten, and they say, "Oh gosh, you write well." And because they don't want to pay you a compliment that they think you're smart or sharp,
Yeah,
they
because
just,
that's
oh, you write well, but writing well just doesn't come out of nowhere.
That's true.
There's a basis for it. So there's a discipline around it. And that's what we'd like to make sure that the people who have come through ACAD speak clearly and authoritatively, both on paper and by their voice. Because a lot of Kenyans like putting their hands on their mouth when they're speaking, or they muffle their voice,
Yeah.
they chew their nails. And the world doesn't have so much time. In fact, in a place like in New York, if you don't express yourself or showcase yourself with an executive presence within the first 3 seconds, you're thrown away. There are almost 17 million people. So
Fighting for the chances.
fighting for
and
the
opportunities.
chances. So this skill is a fundamental skill.
Yeah.
And it's a very important skill. And that's why...
And
I'd
very
like-
underrated.
underrated. And that's why, if the Almighty blesses, it will be good for him to package this and to sell it in bits, whether it's sold as $1,
Especially to startups.
or $2, exactly.
In Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Trying
in
to
fact-
raise funds.
And in fact,
Yes,
exactly.
yes,
And in
yes.
fact, Julius, I have your initial card, which I'll, because maybe we'll create an Africa Stocking Museum here. I think I have the original cards where Graham's card is written client service, and then mine is written head of business development. They will have one for us on called CEO. We even have one for
Which you
yours.
actually started our office
No, I
for
did.
a
I did
couple
try
of
to get
months.
some work.
In 2010.
So I have a card that when the Kisumu Museum will be showcasing my work in December for a month, I'm going to put all these things as a Son of the Nile exhibition.
Yeah.
Just to show people how journeys are and how they are intertwined. So Julius, you would briefly speak about the Chamasis, is the one who is a doctor, student, and the one who is now at Savannah. Because initially she didn't even like her name
Yes.
before she did this I Am From poem, and there was a transformation.
Yes.
And now she likes and embraces her name and consequently her identity. And she's a granddaughter of Dr. Hezron Manduku, who did a lot of work in Kisi. But you can speak about that particular family. Then the other thing you can speak about is some of the travels I've done with you, and you can speak about which you didn't say, but I think you also learned something along the way of your veterinary school education.
Yes.
There's a certain way of either thinking or seeing the world or seeing things that you learn from there. So you can tell us the most important lesson or your biggest highlight when you're at the veterinary school, and you can then also speak with us briefly about whenever you left the veterinary school. I'll remind you. So
You'll be reminded.
No, don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. So you could also then tell us at veterinary school you had the privilege of meeting and knowing also the farmer Chesire.
Yeah.
So because we're celebrating 12 years of Africa's Talking, and consequently Africa's Talking is part of the Republic of Kenya and the history of Kenya. So we'd like you to speak about that relationship, and also about you taking me to Mama Zipporah Kitoni's home, Siro Hotel, which the Kiprono Kitoni took me after that, because this is a very pertinent part of Kenya, and you're a Kenyan as well, and we're just storing and recording and amplifying our history as a republic. And so if you could share those, would be very happy.
Okay, just before we get there, there was a previous one you'd asked me about the young people of Mathare.
Yes.
And we as ACAD have been partnering with an organization known as Missions of Hope International.
Okay.
And Missions of Hope International sponsors students from Mathare. These guys are sponsoring students from basically kindergarten, primary, high school, and for those who now make it, they're actually sponsored through college.
Wow.
This particular organization raises funds and totally takes care of over 25,000 students.
Serious.
Run by a gentleman called Dr. Wallace Kamau. and amazing gentlemen, amazing people. So we were invited to engage with them so that we could help some of these young people have hope. And we specifically went to their 2 schools, Joska Girls and Ndovoyuni Boys. Those are schools that are actually set up by these guys specifically for those students. Can you imagine? And then others are scattered in schools across the country. So we've run various mentorship programs for them. The last one that I did was for this, the ones who are in the top academic areas. Okay, we had about 25 of them that I now had them for 2 days. Prior to them, we had others join us during our own ACAD seminars. And before that, we now go to the schools and spend 5-6 hours with them, speaking to them, challenging them to wake up and challenge them to do a few things. So one of the things that we have now asked of them is that we want to be able to take a minimum of a top boy and a top girl. Preferably, we should have 4 top boys and 4 top girls, but resources might become a problem.
Okay.
And have them now come and visit me in Dubai for a week.
Okay.
Now, bear in mind, these are children who are coming from Adare.
Yes.
So I have requested the institution and specifically the leaders, and I think they're not too happy with me. I want them to spend at least a week with those kids before they get on the flight and come to Dubai. Because there are certain things that one needs to learn.
Okay.
We'll not go into detail.
Yes.
So when you get there, I can now spend a week not having to teach you the basics of how to do certain things.
Yes.
And I'm saying this because we have hosted kids in our home from Western, from Coast, from Machakos over the years, because we are trying to get the top kids to be able to understand there's more to life, to open their eyes and their hearts and their minds to so many more things.
Interesting.
And if you're going to be spending too much time on basics, with all due respect, like how to use a toilet, then you're not going to be spending time you're not going to be spending productive time with these brilliant kids. So let's have a week for them before they catch that flight. Let them go through the entire process of that documentation. And for the organization, let them be able to, we've given them the criteria, 5 criteria of how you're going to choose these kids.
Yes.
Based on the 5 criteria for our ACAD application criteria for going to.
Kindly share that.
Yes, for going abroad. Number 1, what is their leadership like? Yes. And we have to have a whole conversation about what leadership is. Number 2, what are your solutions to society? Number 3, how are you quantifying your corporate social responsibility? Number 4, how do your academics look like? Remember, we're not starting with academics. How do your academics look like? Number 4. And then number 5, how are your references like?
Okay.
So if you're able to have those 5 basics, and you're able to now do the profile writing as we require it done, we have an outline of that, as well as tell us about your solutions to society, and again, we have a format for that.
Yes.
Then we can start having a conversation. Unfortunately, the 80-20 rule persists here. 80% of them want to sit back, and Graham should find the solutions, and then I should benefit from his work. I see. Then he should go and start setting up Africa's Talking, and I should just come and just enjoy, because after all, So we are not solution-oriented. So if we can have those 2 basic ones. At most, would like at least 4 guys, 4 girls, and 4 boys. Bring them over to Dubai, spend a week with them, take them around, show them how these guys have created this place from nothing.
Yes.
And then bring them back. And we want kids who are in Form 2, so that they're in the educational system for Form 2, Form 3, Form 4, another 3 years, and let that experience impact them in terms of how are they going to translate it to their own studies. Yes. Now, when people think I'm crazy for doing this, one of the things I did with my daughter as an example is that she did a full month of a law internship in Botswana. A full month.
Okay.
She was in Form 2.
Okay.
How is somebody in Form 2 doing a law internship for a month? And that process included, and Teddy has always talked to me about this, included our traveling to Botswana by road so that she can see and understand how Africa is.
Yes.
Understand the geography, understand the languages, understand the people, go to the Victoria Falls, okay? This is Form 2, by the way.
Okay.
You can imagine how that now starts impacting and changing your thinking, because Africa is not limited to your village. It's not limited to the town you've come from. It's not just Kenya. Now she can talk about Uganda, she can talk about Tanzania, she can talk about Zambia, she can talk about Zimbabwe, because she's been there, she's seen it. She can talk about Botswana. She can talk about different languages and cultures and experiences. So when now we come to doing subjects like history, what is the history of the African people? And Teddy talked about the Queen.
Yes.
How does that history now tie in with all of us? But from there now, you wanted me to mention these are things that I'm not forgetting.
So also to underscore that, the best time to go for an exchange program worldwide, it's proven, is between the ages of 15 and 16.
Yes.
Interesting.
Because that completely changes your worldview.
Wow.
I was not able to go for one when I was in Anana because, funny enough, I was the one organizing for it.
Oh, really?
Yes. So when my book was being released at Trademark Hotel,
Yes.
Dr. Beverly Jebet Chesrem talked about that. So the teachers found it strange that I was doing it, but I thought it was important to help them organize an exchange program between Norton, Norton School in Stockton-on-Tees, in the northern part of England, which is the industrial district.
Okay.
And between Lenana and Precious Blood. So 5 girls from Lenana, from Precious Blood, Reruta.
Yes.
5 boys from Lenana school. And then they go there for 3 weeks.
Wow.
So I want to give a bit of a highlight. So when they had gone, I believe it was 1995, The Lion King had just come.
Okay.
And the Brits were crazy about the songs and about the movie and everything.
Yes.
And one question that I was asked for one of my first mentees ever, called Marlon Ingaiwa Kidiga. Now Dr. Kidiga is a pharmacist in New Jersey.
Wow.
He was asked how do glaciers form, and he actually explained it because he had learned it in geography in school, at Lenana School, taught by Mrs. Frida Wamanga. But what even was crazy is that Dr. Jebet, now Dr. Pauline, Nduko, and Musembi, Mutula Kilonzo's son, Jimmy, and all these guys, when they're being asked to do the math, they were not using calculators. Because in Kenya,
You don't usually, yes. Even until after high school.
Exactly, we were never using calculators. So they were
8 for 4 should
math,
come back.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So they're finishing. Yeah, they're finishing the math problems before these English lads and lasses. You see that? So it gave them a supremely self-confident mind.
Yeah.
That if we can beat these guys in math, then we're really good. So majority of the guys, out of the 10, I think 8 out of the 10. Want to study overseas after that experience.
That's
so
amazing.
It became one of the best things I think that I've done, because then I used to run a club called People, Places and Plans. And because
Back in high school.
Back in high school. And because I was in 4th form, then I couldn't go because it was a 2-year. After every 2 years is when we do the exchange.
Okay.
And also after every 2 years they come to us. And when I took my friend, the Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, to Lenana,
Yes.
in the first Mashujaa Day celebration,
Yes.
post the 2010 Constitution,
Yes.
one of the primary things I wanted to be revived was that exchange
places
program.
and
People, places, and plans, and that Norton Kenya link. You see that, and because I found them, and then later, which surprised me, I was invited to join Schmidt Futures.
Yes.
It's schmidtfutures.com.
Yes.
I think we'll be going for the first time next year, because now
After
the
COVID.
world, after post-COVID. But the interesting thing about it is that Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google for 10 years and the chairman of Alphabet, and he really made the stakes of Google go up. He started a program called Schmidt Futures to power people who power people to change societies, basically.
Okay.
So he has a unique program called Rise Challenge, which is actually being run by a Kenyan, Dr. Rutenberg. Dr. Kamau Rutenberg.
Okay.
And it's called the Rise Challenge. So he picks kids from 15 to 17 years. And you're given skills development, like exactly what Aka does. And he does something then even more extraordinary, or on top of that, because he funds your project for your lifetime.
Wow.
You see that? So I wanted to bring that so that we can have a continuation of these opportunities at that age, because they often say a good entrepreneur should already start practicing by the time they're 17.
Okay.
Latest 25. After that, then you can be one, but
you'll always just miss the mark.
You'll be struggling.
But miracles happen.
Miracles, like General Sanders.
I went to school.
Like General Sanders.
KFC story.
Yeah, KFC story happens, but that's fun in between. But for the real deal,
Or it takes a really sheer
like even
amount of effort.
even what she said about Christine.
Yes.
Christine, what Julius mentioned, Christine was invited to the to study law in Kenya. I don't know where she is now.
Yeah.
Studying.
She's chosen, well, because of confidentiality. She might not want me to share the details, but she was admitted to do law, KU.
Exactly.
But she got a better offer where she is. And so she's studying, let me not go there.
That's okay.
She'll catch up with me.
And harass you a bit.
But she's gotten a better offer. That's the point.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and it's good to have offers
Yeah.
and options.
Poverty is a lack of options.
But actually, Julius is saying a very important thing. So I like this because I like the idea of marrying service to critical thinking.
Okay.
And like in America, they always say, why are blacks the way they are? Or why is it that Mexicans are in bodegas and favelas and all these kind of things? They don't usually ask, what is the edifice that created those favelas, ghettos, and all that? So I like the idea of marrying critical thinking with service.
Yes.
And you've done service to your daughter.
Yeah.
Granted, she's your daughter, but she's also done it for other mentees in
Yeah.
Accra
Yes.
or other relatives.
Yes.
What I'm trying to say is that you've spoken about a very important word. And that's actually the primary reason I went to the States. You have choices. You have multiple choices. In Kenya, the multiple choices are only limited to exams, KCPE.
Yes. and a couple of public unis.
Public unis, you see that? So if you have choices, then you have just said now, she has gotten a better offer than what Kenya or KU or whatever university she was going
Could
to
have
go
given
to
her, yeah.
could have given her. Could you speak a bit about one of ACAD's important way, which is negotiation? Because you need that negotiation, whether you're about to get married, to go to a school, to get a pay rise.
Yes.
It's a skill that you'll carry for the rest of your life. And just to give an example, because I get asked this all the time, people ask me, how much pay should I ask for? And our move and ten is it's so simple. First, go and check the market rate on Google at a minimum. And what are you worth, or how do you value yourself? And then after that, you then just give a range.
Yeah.
And then you move on. So you can speak about that because it's a very important skill. And even schools like Harvard or any other top tier schools, they don't beat the rest of the world because they're any smarter. They're just better packaged and better prepared with the skills that are practical. And in fact, even if you go to the House of Windsor, if you're to look why they've been able to have so much power, it's because their power of rhetoric is supreme and their power of writing is also supreme. Like even when you saw King Charles repeating things that you could think he's speaking in 15th century English, it's just to show you the power of words. It's to show you also the power of words when they are spoken in the right tone and to the right people at the right time. So you could have somebody who nudges you or who nags you. Those are two different words. There's one who nudges you. There's one who nags you. So these are two different things. So with what he taught his daughter all along, he's speaking about Christine wrote this. Christine prepared for this. Christine sold this, which you haven't spoke about. If she sold the tickets for ACAD for people to get into some of the activities, you're also teaching her a fundamental life skill.
Yes, and she got paid by the
So which is good. But what I'm trying to say is, if you could walk us that, because then now you've prepared her, and my goal and my wish, and possibly my dream, is that you should spend a great deal of time to figure out how you'll scale ACAD to benefit Africa from wherever you are, because you already have the playbook. When my friend Eston Kimathi and I went to meet Jack Ma, when my friend Brian asked me, what would you like to get from Jack Ma, I told my friend Brian, who is also an Aspen fellow, I told him, just give us the playbook of how Alibaba was built. That's all we need.
Nice.
I don't need anything else. Boy, did he spend those 3.5 weeks showing us everything.
Serious?
I've never been photographed as many times as all the cities we went at the cost of Alibaba.
Wow.
For him to just show us how they build it, including the original market called YIW market. In fact, you should YIW is the largest market in China, where 80% of the socks that you wear or anything you wear is made and comes from.
Wow.
And if you buy TV, you don't go there because now saying, oh gosh, I'm going to buy one TV. They say, no. Here they buy 20,000 TVs at a go. What I'm trying to say with this, Julius, is that you've taught your daughter well in relation to that. And this is something that can be scaled to all over Africa.
Yes.
It can be done.
And there are people who are funding similar models, Schmidt Futures.
Exactly. So,
Well, bring the funding and then we will talk. But just to answer your question, first of all, with all due respect, my experience of study at Harvard Law School, program on negotiation, was literally the best academic experience I've ever had in my life, with all due respect. The lecturers there, when they turn up, are so excited about their material. They're almost going to catch fire. They almost combust with passion and interest. And then some of these guys are the guys who have written the books that you're reading in the first place. So it's incredible meeting people there. What was sad is that I would normally be the only dark-skinned person in the room. Question is, where are the other Africans? Why are they not there? That for me was extremely painful. But the skills that are taught there, as Teddy has said, are very well packaged. It's a proper program. You run through it, And for me, as I said, it was our professor at UMass Boston in dispute resolution, Professor David Matz, who basically said, guys, you have to go for this Harvard program. And the Massachusetts educational system there of universities is such that you can actually go to different universities in the same place.
Nice.
So that is basically how I got in, and that was, as I said, the best experience for me. Now, one of the things that we did recently with our mentees in our gap year program was to have a 4-hour session on what we call negotiating with Hitler.
Wow.
Now, some people now who, with all due respect, their preferred person has lost in, the general election, they feel they cannot talk to that person. They feel they cannot engage with that person.
it's part of grief.
It's part of the grieving process.
Okay.
But now we need to teach our young
Yani,
people.
for our listeners,
Yes.
the Azimio Brigade finds it hard to negotiate with the Kenya Kwanza Brigade.
You're putting your knife right into my heart, but let's not go.
They might not have been allowed. The handshake might not have been extended.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, yes.
There's no
yes.
handshakes.
Which
But
there's
everything is possible under the sun.
which there's no choice than to extend it.
But as my party members at NAC Kenya will let you know, one of the things I love to teach my party members was negotiation.
Okay.
And one of the things I taught for quite a while, even when party members are not happy about it, was how to handle inter-party negotiations. So we need to understand whether we are negotiating from a position or we're negotiating from interests.
Okay.
Most people hold hardline positions, hawataki kujua. But if you understand what are the underlying interests, using the iceberg principle, what you're seeing is 10% in terms of the position, but there's 90% that is underneath.
You need to explain the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It says the more you are sure about the position, the less you are aware of the direction of the particle. You need to say something, man. You are exciting us now. This is crazy.
Thank you. So when we speak about negotiation and we train in issues of negotiation,
Yes.
those are the things that you bring out. And with all due respect, if you make the mistake of bringing your children to ACAD and we take them through negotiation as a parent, your children will begin ripping you off the way I have been ripped off by my daughters. Because they plan, they know what my interests are, they know how to approach the subject, they understand the anchoring, they understand the opening bid, they understand what concessions they are going to go through, they understand the whole gambit, both from distributive negotiation to collaborative negotiation.
Okay.
And therefore, for me as a parent, by the time I've taken 3 blows from this one, 4 blows from that one, another 3 blows, I just realized, do this. It's easier just to give in. So we as people need to understand how to negotiate, because now that my mentee boys and girls are getting married, you have to negotiate with your spouse or potential spouse. Do you understand what the position is? Do you understand what the interests are?
So wait first. Is it true to say that lack of knowledge of negotiation is an injustice?
It is an injustice. to
It is
yourself.
like it is a huge injustice.
It's a crime.
Actually, it's such a big crime and injustice that I'd like Julius to go in depth in it, because we've even sold.
Even when you have something you could have actually benefited from.
For example, even for which I intentionally gave the China example.
Yes.
Because it was actually basically, they was being asked, what do you want from at the table?
At the table. Yes.
So do you want to Jack Ma to give you some funding in terms of the entrepreneurship fund that he is creating?
For
is
Africa.
Is that the priority? Or is there any other thing that you wanted?
Yeah.
So I said it very calm. In fact, Brian was very surprised. I said, show me the playbook of Alibaba and also show me the strategy.
Nice.
This is exactly what I asked.
Yes.
And this is exactly what I was given. Or rather, what we were given on behalf of the whole
Of the
24
continent.
of us.
Because you are going there for the continent's
exactly.
sake, right?
So all the 24 other guys were with me. So that's what we were given.
Okay.
And it actually resulted in creation of another company.
Yes,
But,
yes.
Yeah, but called Ideas Come to Life. So what I'd like to, Julius, for you to help us, even when our leaders go to China,
Yes.
we don't negotiate properly for the loans or the things. There are things like the funny wagons that you were given that could have been given free of cost.
Yes.
Why would we
Even
have
the
said,
engine shouldn't have been diesel.
Exactly. Why shouldn't we have said, give us a few free, but let's buy the brand new train, high-speed train, so that we say for Mombasa or whatever, this is what we use. But for cargo, we're willing to use the old trains. So there's room for that, and nobody, including some of their most distinguished diplomats, nobody was helping Mr. Kenyatta and
Negotiate
Mr.
a
Ruto
good
at that
deal.
time, Dr. Ruto, to negotiate a good deal.
Yeah.
See that?
With all
So
yeah.
please walk us
Hence,
through.
this is a very important example.
Yes.
Resulting in the injustice we have, which is we are overpaying for a product that was undervalued.
Yes.
Exactly.
No, overvalued.
Overvalued.
Yeah.
And in fact, even constructing the whole thing became even a total mess.
Yes.
Because everybody was now wanting money from it. Everyone wanted to take something from
Yes.
it. So please walk
Yeah,
us
go
through
through
that.
negotiation, even the steps, what somebody should expect, and why somebody should take negotiation.
Well, just to begin with,
very
first
nice.
of all, the negotiating table and partners depends on the ethics of the person in the first place. If you have the typical Kenyan who's coming there for his stomach, then he's going to sell you 30-year-old locomotives at the price of brand new ones, and he will feel nothing because he has no ethics, he has no values, he's not a leader. He's there to eat.
Yeah.
So he couldn't care less about negotiation skills. So such persons who are in charge and are choosing a negotiation team need to bring people on board who actually care for the outcomes of the negotiation. You need to bring people with the skills of being able to negotiate. So that's why I say the last thing that we did with our Gap Year 2022 group was negotiating with Hitler. And then thereafter now, such a person, as I said, needs to be able to understand. First of all, there's a lot of background research you need to do before you get to the negotiation table. Okay. Most of us Kenyans turn up at the negotiation table and we wing it. So when you turn up and just wing it, I assure you, you're going to leave 80% value off the table.
Nice.
You'll end up taking maybe 20% because you've not prepared. So you need to have prepared in terms of understanding simple things like what is known as the BATNA. BATNA stands for your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Now, if you want me to start telling you about BATNA, that's going to be another podcast. But my point is,
In
if you
Dubai.
don't even know what BATNA is,
In Dubai, we are coming. You have said it, bro. We are coming.
Julius, hopefully in November.
In November or December, we are
come
in
to
that
Dubai.
place, bro.
Aye,
Be ready.
We'll come to Dubai.
make it worth
No, it's
my-
not hearsay.
make
We are
it
coming, so we'll do that, but
make it worth my while. But let's
Yes.
keep going. Okay, let's keep going. So if you're not even familiar with your partner, okay, in the first place, let alone the other the person you're going to negotiate with, their own partner, you cannot even do these things. You cannot now, therefore, begin to understand what is their opening bid, what is their potential closing bid, what is their reservation value, what is the ZOPA, the zone of possible agreement. If you don't know that, you are like a blind person with a blindfold trying to box in the dark. And that's how our negotiators go into these places in China and the rest, and they sell our country. So even if a person actually does want to be able to do a good job, but has not been taken through this kind of skills training, you're lost. you will be lost. You will not be able to do anything. That's what I'm saying. When my daughters, who chose to take those classes when I was training them, chose to learn from them, when they decide that they are attacking me, I'm done for. Because they have researched. They know their father's interests. They know the concessions they're going to give. They have planned these things. They're not coming to me, daddy, spur of the moment. No. That is why now, when this young girl was raising those $8,000, she knew exactly who to target, how to target them, and understanding, that this is a person who has an interest in building youth leadership. She was able to pitch in that way. Okay, it was very systematic. It was very planned. There was no or other off the cuff. And some of these people, of course, would call at very odd hours and insist, what's happening? Yes, hey, wait. Can you speak to her? Okay. So again, give her. Okay, she had her phone, but sometimes they're calling me on my phone. And let me tell you, she would make a presentation that would just blow your socks off. Now, if you're able to do that at 15, what are you going to be able to do when you're 25? These are skills that you need to have so that you're able to, first of all, negotiate with yourself successfully, such as negotiating for you guys to get out of bed before 10. I know you guys.
No, it's because we are sleeping at 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we are working hard.
No, we don't play.
Yes.
I thought you were partying.
No.
That's why you can't get out in the morning.
No,
we don't play.
By the time we are going to bed, at least
Money never
the world
sleeps.
has woken up.
Julius, what time is it? Julius, could you look at your watch and say, what time is it? No, Julius, what time is it?
I haven't. Okay.
It's almost
what are
half
we
past
doing?
8
What are we
p.m. in
doing?
Nairobi. Right now.
Okay, so 8:30. I understand.
We are going strong.
I understand because when I was running my business, Leroy Services, I was operating on 3 continents and 8 countries.
Wow.
I was
And
operating-
this was in the 90s, bro.
Yes, this is in the 90s. Okay, so I was operating with the US, and then Africa, and then China. So I fully understood what those time zones were. Unfortunately, most of my staff did not, and they thought this was the laziest CEO they've ever seen. How can a guy come to work at 11 in the morning? They just couldn't get it. But of course, you're getting a salary. You want to take your salary. You keep quiet about the guy coming to work at 11. You don't know that I went to sleep at 6 in the morning.
And you know the beauty
Because
of
I've been up-
Africa.
I've been up
the
since
the beauty
2
of,
a.m.
the beauty of Africa is that we are time zone blessed.
In between, we're right in
Yeah,
We are
between.
the center of
we
the
are
world.
the center of the world.
Yes,
Like
yes.
when guys are waking up, we are awake. When guys are waking up on the other side, we are awake.
Yes.
It's
And
quite
I think-
interesting.
And in fact, Graham, coming to that, Julius, because I find it very intriguing when you talked about the time zones. You could share with us, because China is of an interest to us now. I've been to China. I've been influenced by China. Before I went to China for the first time in 2015.
We can say you're an objective African.
Exactly.
You have eaten both the Chinese and American pie.
And now I'm making an African pie.
Yes, and you have come out objective. That's a miracle.
Wow. Thank you, Graham. So Julius, could you share with us briefly about your first visit to China? If you either went to get your supplies and how you did it and how you brought them back to Botswana, because some people have never experienced that, or they don't know what it takes. And we're trying to open their minds and by extension opening their world.
Yes. Well, one of the things that people don't understand is that entrepreneurship is something that can be taught. It's not always something that you're born with. So if you're taught certain entrepreneurial principles, then you'll be able to apply them in a business environment. So for example, I started my business by basically buying and selling. I would buy wholesale in bulk, say from South Africa, from Zimbabwe, and then I would resell in Botswana. And given my skills now as a veterinary doctor, and you'd asked me how does the veterinary things come in, I was the 20th veterinary person to be registered in the country at the time.
Wow.
When I now recently re-registered, after
So recently you're also...
I was back there last year, and as I re-registered, I was the 198th person to be registered.
So right now you can do it in Botswana?
Yes, I'm authorized to do all that. So my point is that as I started doing that business, I initially started buying and selling. And so when you're buying at wholesale, you are then going to quote and unquote retail. But the client I was selling to is also a wholesaler. So that's business to business. But now the margins were extremely small. If you're buying at a particular price, you're probably going to get a margin of about 3%. So you have to do things in bulk. So part of what I had to learn, and that's the beauty of going to business school and learning all this entrepreneurship, is that you need to now ask yourself, how can I forward and backwardly integrate these particular solutions? So if I'm buying from a wholesaler, where is the wholesaler getting it from? Is getting it from the manufacturer. So it became important for me to become a manufacturer. So as I wanted to become a manufacturer, that's when I first went to Singapore, see if I can do manufacturing there. Hey, man, those guys were too expensive, man. And where do the Singaporeans get their materials from? They get them from mainland China. So guess what? 1994, I go to mainland China. And I then did a tour of across literally half of China, to visit. I think I must have visited about 15 factories and other manufacturing, whatever, until I got to have about 3 that I had agreed with. And of course, you need to have your own agent there because even speaking the language at that time was a challenge. And I actually went into places where they had never seen a black man before.
How old were you then?
I was
Still in your 20s?
I was 28,
Wow.
29 there.
That's crazy.
Yes, 28, yeah.
You are an educated 28-year-old.
Yes.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, but you see, there's also this thing called hunger, njaa, that causes
Stay hungry.
yes, stay hungry and stay foolish. So when I now
You coined the phrase before Steve Jobs.
In fact, Steve got it from China, I believe.
By the way, very
So-
true.
Okay.
Yes, no, I've studied Steve Jobs quite a bit. In fact, when Graham is saying I've had a taste of America and a taste of China, is that all on the Hangzhou campus of Alibaba, it was always written, stay hungry, stay foolish.
Wow.
But Steve Jobs was influenced a lot by Indians and also a bit by Chinese. That's why his glasses are like Mahatma Gandhi's. You see that? And Julius, also at the time when he's saying he's there at 28, is also because he mentioned a certain mentor and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had been blessed to have multiple mentors.
Yes.
And in fact, one of them was a foreign minister in the Republic of Kenya. I think, Julius, it's important to speak about some of these things because...
Let me hold off on that
Because-
one. Let me hold off on that one.
Why?
No,
Is that guy
Julius.
advancedly mentioned?
No.
Julius,
Confidentiality issues.
Julius, listen to this.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm saying that
Yes.
is because if, like Steve Jobs or like other people, I'm very blessed in connecting things.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So people don't just happen
Yes.
out of the skies because some people ask me. In fact, one of my friends now who has a new children and is trying to raise them say, "What did your parents do so that you became supremely self-confident or be A, B, C, D?" And there's always something that made you who you are today. There's always like if you.
It's always a process,
It's a process
with people.
Yeah, it's a process with people, and processes actually change people, companies, and things, and not just organizations or schools and all that. So, what I'm trying to say with this is that somebody opened your eyes wide open. On my part, when my angel mother was always cooking ugali in our living in our kitchen in Buruburu. There was a game she'd ask us draw the map of Africa or the map of the world before the ugali starts. The simmering of the hot water.
Serious?
I'm dead serious about that. And then there was a game, and she'll ask us, "What's the capital city of Zimbabwe?" During her days, I think they used to call it something else. But during her days, Harare,
some English or
Salisbury. So my mother made sure she did that. And this were countless cooking times because ugali was a staple food.
Exactly.
And then my mother became also very... This I'm leading so that I help you or I guide you in what I'm trying to ask. The other thing that my mother did, which I thought was very strange, there was a game she gave all of us, both the girls and the boys. And the game used to run for A to Z. And depending on what day you're starting with which letter, she could ask you guys, what's the car that starts with an O? Letter O. I would say Opel, for example.
Nice.
Or what's the car that starts with C? Citroen. But then my mother had something, these days because of the benefit of Google,
Yes.
we don't use almanacs and Encyclopedia Britannica and what have you.
Yeah.
But we always had those things at home. And my late brother Victor had a book called The Origins of Species. So I learned about all the animals or genetics and what have you. And this was still before the age of 15.
Wow.
The reason why I'm saying this is that there's always that person
Yes.
That wakes you up.
who wakes you up completely and make sure you're woke for quite some time. So you've been that to your daughter. And even here in the earlier days at Africa's Talking, we did what we had to do, including even Graham coming with with a fantastic phrase called "I believe in greatness today." And
That's because of the way every time, and this has always been my pet peeve. I don't know. I've always been bothered when people postpone action
To the future.
but to the future, not even just the future,
Yeah.
to an unknown
Known
future.
future,
You know, I'd rather tell you, we're going to do this next week.
Yes.
But if I tell you we're going to do this,
You're gonna do it.
and that's why
it's-
even
you know,
and that's why even for him it's definitive. What she tells when he started this statement that the kids or the mentees are given a vision, and it's not just enough to say, I want to go to this school. It's important to say, I want to go to Harvard. I want to go in this year.
Yes.
And this is what I need to do.
Smart
To
goal.
get
or a
there.
good example, we are gonna industrialize Africa.
Exactly. And
We don't want to industrialize Africa eventually. Eventually to industrialize. Just like eventually, South Africa got free. Eventually, right?
Yeah, which
But
if
you want to say, I want it today.
exactly.
So
Smart
when you go to
goals.
sleep and you didn't make it, you continue tomorrow.
Yeah,
Smart
You know?
goals that are time bound.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so that becomes very important in reimagining a new Africa. And rather than just say,
Sorry to
my
be
personal
political,
motto-
like Agenda 2063.
Yes.
Like, are you crazy?
Yes.
Like, how can Africa Union be targeting Agenda 2063 in a world where we are so digital? We have crypto. We can raise money.
Yes.
We could do it today.
Things
It
happen.
means that we don't want
We're
to.
never doing it.
No, they're sitting back because in the earlier formation of this Vision 2063, I used to go to Addis a lot. And funny enough, UNECA used to pay us to go there as young Africans.
Okay.
And so with Africa 2.0, we went to there, we brought other people. And eventually, we're going through this document, Agenda 2063. But at that time, we're giving Her Excellency Nkosazana.
Oh, yes, I
we're
remember
giving her-
Dr.
Yeah, we're giving her. She was the then
Zuma.
chair person for the AU. And
Yes.
we're giving her Africa 2.0 manifesto. They went through it. They did all these kind of things. In a short while, we're seeing, gosh, these guys have come with Agenda 2063. And I'm wondering, really?
In fact, they should have done it. That's the funny thing. They should have done it immediately they saw your thing and given you all the support.
Yes, I'm so surprised because all these
20,
guys...
when is
exactly-
2063 going to show up?
and all
Some
these
of
guys
us
were
might not
very
be here.
youthful.
This is crazy.
Yes, and all these guys actually were very youthful. And I wondered, why would they not give all these guys to run with this thing? And they're from 40 countries.
Yeah.
Yet we even gave them the bulk of the thought. And that's why one of our members is the head of UNECA right now, because UNECA saw what we had. UNECA was paying us per diem or whatever you call them and airfares to go there. But now Dr. Vera Songwe is executive secretary of UNECA. And she's implementing part of the whole...
The ideas you are sharing.
Because we even did something called the business plan for Africa. And in fact, given that Mamadou Touré was very invested in the idea of telcos, the first country I ever visited was actually South Africa, because he was asking me to go for the first ICT Indaba that was being done at Cape Town. And I was very shocked because the person who was sitting next to me at that time was somebody who had just been the president. It was actually the president of South Africa, Motlanthe. And it was the first time as a young African being to a different African country. I was like, wow, you mean I can be sitting next to Motlanthe for the whole day?
Yeah.
And then at night,
You go for some drinks.
Hugh Masekela to sing and entertain me.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this? and then shortly after that, they and the place they've had us to sleep is probably one of the grandest hotels in Cape Town. The reason why I'm saying this is that was my beginning of interacting with Africa, and it was in 2010. And that just shows you the power of showing people things, holding people's hands, and going forth.
Imagine if Africa 2.0 was also for 2063.
Yeah. How
We-
quick-
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
doesn't make
And that's
sense.
why I hope, which I'm talking directly to Her Excellency Nados Bekele Thomas, who is now AU's NEPAD's new CEO. I think she's been there for 2 months.
Yeah.
Would like to work with you, Madam. Mama would like to work with you so that we elevate enterprise development in Africa. Not
From the village.
from the village.
And the market.
And the market.
And
the school.
And the school.
And the mosque.
mosque.
We want to do that.
And the church.
Yes, including the Ethiopian Orthodox Church as well, because we have these things. We don't need to go to expensive hotels, or we don't need to go to radio stations or TV stations that we have to pay and all that. We can just do it by ourselves because we have the right message for the Africans, our fellow Africans. And we want to see African blossom in our lifetime, not when we're dead or gone. We want to see it. We want to feel a vibrant Africa. And that's why I'm really happy to share this. And in fact, that's why at the beginning I said, I see my role now, my mission now, is growing leaders, and also, what did I say? Growing leaders, and also raising entrepreneurs. Because
If they let you. If
they let me, and even if they don't, with the ability to write and with the ability to do podcasts like this, I'll always make sure we've stored our knowledge.
It will be
for
automatic.
the next
Absolutely.
generation.
Yes. Yeah, knowledge management is one of the things that we as Africans tend to be very poor at, and passing on that knowledge. You know, you get employed into a position, and at least this has been some of my bad experiences. You get into a position and you ask, so what do I need to do? You're being told, figure it out. Then you're asking, so what information is there for me to start figuring
Institutional
it out?
knowledge,
Hakuna.
structures, framework.
Yes, so you are left to just sort yourself out, and by the time you've struggled, you've wasted 2 months. You know, when you could have actually hit the ground running, there could have been somebody to actually hand over the baton. And that's why I like the way you're calling this as an exit interview. Because as I exit out, what value can I actually be able to challenge people on? What value can I bring to the table? And what value can somebody glean? So somebody listening to all of this hopefully should be able to take 1 or 2 key things that can be able to run with, and a few sub-themes. And to be able to do it as a smart goal, you know, something that is sustainable, measurable, attainable, realistic, you know, time-bound, you know, specific, you know. So this thing of, like now at ACAD, when we hold our youth to those kind of standards, you know, when we hold them to those 5 points that we require them to do, they have to do them as smart goals. That is why we lose 80% of our youth, because hii ni kitu tutaka fanya pole pole. You know, mzee, you're rushing us. You know, we have all they think they have all the time. But one of the saddest things that happens is that there was a time when 90% of the calls we got were for people who immediately they have gotten through to me. They ask, "Give me a scholarship."
Wow.
Note, they have not introduced themselves. I don't know who they are. They've not told me their name. They've not told me anything. They're saying, give me a scholarship. Their thinking is that I have a drawer here. The moment you say, give me a scholarship, I open the drawer, I pull it out, I give it to you. Yeah, come at such and such a time, I shall give it to you. When I now explain that there's a process that you need to go through, there's a preparation, there's a mindset. Romans 12, 1 and 2. You need to be transformed by the renewal of your mind so that you can know what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect. You tell them about that, and they don't want to do the hard work. So 80% of those calls are a waste of my time. So I reached a point where now you call me and you start that kind of conversation, that call is going to last for 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes. If you've not made your, value in terms of your point, quite honestly, we have a website. You can go to it, www.akadeducationgroupafrica.com. For those who now want to go to the next level, and what Teddy was talking about, the mentorship now that's online, we now have a portal. Again, www.akadafrica.com, where now you go in, you will sign in, you will find a list of, we've put a sample of 12 things that include negotiation, that now you have access to, but it's going to be at a cost. It's not going to be for free. Unfortunately, my fellow Kenyans, fellow Africans, we love free things.
Actually, people who don't take free things seriously.
They don't take them seriously. Unfortunately,
when they pay,
it's my time that now you're playing with. And as we were saying earlier on before this conversation, due to my advanced age, I have less time ahead of me than I have behind me. You guys who are young, you got a lot of time ahead of you. So my 1 hour is very different from your 1 hour. That's where now again we're going to Einstein's theory of relativity. So 1 hour for you is probably quote and unquote like a whole month. You can waste it.
Yeah.
For me, 1 hour might probably be like 10 minutes. So I have to be very clever in how I'm going to use that 1 hour. So I don't want to waste it.
Yeah.
So when people come to me and the first thing you're telling me is give me a scholarship, we're not communicating. So when people do not even know how to do basic communication, it breaks my heart. That's why we want to engage with young people at a younger age. That's ages 15 and even younger. So they can develop these life skills early and then be able to deploy them in a manner that is going to give them the kind of returns that they have.
Yeah.
So when people see all those case studies of the young people we've worked with and how they have succeeded, the automatic African and Kenyan way is to think the way we think as religious people, that it is only favor. That is, I have favored Oliver. Oliver must be related to my uncle, and it is a nepotism, family, whatever it is. They don't understand. This guy here has worked. Oliver has been standing all this time, by the way.
It's true.
He has been going back and forth with that camera. He's actually working. He's not sitting back there texting somebody on his phone.
Yeah.
He's actually working for it.
Yeah.
They don't understand that for young people to be able to succeed as these ones have succeeded, it has taken work. And that work has to be done within a particular time slot and the rest.
Yeah.
So like, for example, using our gap year group, not that I want to give too many details, but using our gap year group, for example, one of the girls who has an attitude of a culture of expectation. Hii ni haki yangu. Things have to be done this way, this way. We recently had a very serious falling out because this is the third time that things have not been done. And when I've held you accountable, you've kind of come feeling like, no, me, I can take my time. Well, guess what? I don't have that kind of time. I don't have that time. So we, on our part, are considered to be a bit rude. Yes. We are considered to be insensitive because we tell people like that, okay, do this. There are many other mentors within our group. Right now, your chemistry and mine is not working because I expect you to do things in a timely manner. And guess what? At my old age, I expect you to do it respectfully. So if you feel that you want to communicate to me in a disrespectful manner and you don't think that the timelines I'm putting are important, let me ask you to kindly feel free to use other mentors. So if you go to the other normal mentors in the rest of, I'm sorry to say the country, not that I'm putting people down, people have no structure. They have no intentionality. They come there bragging about what they have done. They actually don't hold you accountable. And people like that will work for them because they'll tickle your ears, as we're saying. That's what the Bible says about the last days. People just want somebody to come and tickle their ears. Somebody like that will want to come and swashay because they look cute. And, somebody's going to really appreciate that they're looking cute, but they're adding no value to you. So we at ACAD, for example, and we borrow this from Africa 2.0, there's a table there that talks about what are the responsibilities of the mentee and what are the responsibilities of the mentor. And we hold each other accountable according to those requirements. So even I, who is speaking here, you can go down according to that list and ask, does this guy fit this 10-point criteria? Is he meeting them? If you're going to be kind, you'll probably say, okay, out of these 10 points, maybe he's scoring 80, 70%. But if you find I'm hitting 10%, boss, that's time to decide that this guy should not be in your life. But guess what? It also happens for the mentees. So I require you to show cause as to why I should invest my time in you so that as Teddy was asking, how are we now going to decide which of these youth we're going to give an opportunity of coming to visit Dubai in terms of this educational tour? And one of the things we require is that when you've now come to Dubai and spent time with us, as well as other places, which again, thankfully, due to Teddy and Africa 2.0, we've gone to Nigeria, we've been together, Ethiopia, all these other places.
I remember.
We expect these people to give back through their leadership. They should be going back and trying to inspire others to also want to succeed. And that's why we are asking, for example, for Mohi in particular, I want us to specifically be able to have at most, 4 boys, 4 girls, because the reason is that maybe 2-3 of them, it will get into their heads that they're so important, as happened with our Western Kenya kids who we had to throw away, well as our kids from the coast who used to think, bwana Weche ako na pesa mingi sana. Twende tukule mali yake. They don't realize that when we are bringing them here, it's because we want to add value to them. They come and they do nothing. They go and give back nothing. What they do when they give back is to show off about how I've been here, I've been there, I've taken selfies. That's not the reason. You are supposed to be inspiring others to want to succeed. And when you fail to do that, it doesn't help. And I'm sorry to say, our political leaders are the epitome of what that looks like. Mimi nimefika sasa ni wakati yangu kukula. I need to be seen driving around in the largest V8 Land Cruiser. I need to be taking trips to all these kind of places at taxpayers' money, expense. It is not to give back. So, for example, some of the conversations I'm now having with a few other people is that, guess what? We really trust and hope that the current leadership, with the particular leader, president, alleging to be a Bible-based person, will actually keep to it. And if he does, that's going to be the best thing for this country.
Yes.
But should he continue the same thing that we've seen before, then quite honestly, our goose
Should
is
he
cooked.
walk the wider path and not the narrow path?
Yes. That leads to destruction. Our goose is cooked.
You know, you have been very quiet. But before we were talking with you about Singapore, then we deviated.
Yes.
You went to China. You were going to do something in Botswana.
I was able
and then
to...
you take up politics. The question.
So I was able to get companies that were willing and ready to deal with me because I had very high criteria of what I wanted to manufacture. And I had particular cost limits that I required to be able to do.
Yeah.
Because initially, when I tried to find similar companies in South Africa, it wasn't possible. It was too expensive. Pakistan was too expensive. India, they were having challenges with them. I literally went around the world. I eventually came back to China. And now in China, guess what? These guys have the capacity. They are willing to work hard. They're willing to do these things. Let me give you an example. I would fly and arrive in this particular city, whose name is withheld so that nobody steals my IP.
Because you're about to deliver it in Botswana for real.
No. When I'm going there and I want stuff done, I arrive at midnight. I don't know why my flights always used to arrive at midnight. From the airport to the city where I'm going is 1 hour's drive. When I arrive at 1 a.m., guess what happens? I go straight to the factories.
Wow.
My partners learned me. I'm not interested in sleeping, having breakfast, taking it easy, then going to the factory the next day at 10. I want to see what is happening. So at 1 a.m., as we get into the city, I'm taken to the factories. I hang around, I watch, I see whatever is happening. At 1:32 is when I can now go to my hotel. Then I can sleep. I can wake up and have a big breakfast, whatever. Then go back now to the factories again to make sure that the things that I want manufactured under particular specifications have actually been done, that China has the capacity. And when I would ask and say, I want 100,000 of item X, that item X, even South Africa cannot produce 5,000. China can produce 100,000. And if I say I want 100,000 within 2 weeks, guess what? They'll have it ready in 2 weeks. It is shipped to Shanghai. It is then shipped to the port of Durban, and I can be able to do the rest.
You pull it up to Botswana.
Pull it up to Botswana. And then what I would do is that I'd get some of the things were in parts. So once they come to Botswana, I reconstitute them, put them together, packaging, deliver to client. Okay. Wow. Now that one, in terms of entrepreneurship.
Please, let's remember it's 1990.
This is 1994, 95.
This is crazy. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I became the largest supplier of veterinary products to Botswana government. Yeah, and the joke about it was that my PA, a very beautiful lady called Lucia, is the one who used to do the public relations of everything. So everyone knew her as the boss. And then because she refused to drive...
And that's a smart thing to do in Africa.
Yes.
Making sure that the people who own the story are the people in that village.
Not only
because Africa is a conglomerate of villages.
Not only in that village.
Village.
Not only in that village, but because... she was also handling the public relations and the rest.
Yes.
Everybody got to understand her as the boss and CEO.
Yeah.
You think I cared? Secondly, and me, I'm hitting her. I hope she'll hear this one day. She refused to drive. Took her to driving school. We had cars there. My PA, she had a BMW 520 as her office car, which she refused to drive. So the only option is, if we need to go to places, I will drive her or any of the other people available will drive. So if I drive her, my rule
just magnifies the fact that she is the boss.
My rule is, A, you sit back left, B, I open the doors for you.
Nice.
So imagine, for years, people are seeing me driving her, getting to places, opening the door for her.
Nice.
And closing. So people knew I was the driver.
Nice,
That's
smart.
No. Dr. Weche, I think there are a couple of things that I've heard from you. One is that you need to find a community of the like-minded and the network. And I think anyone can actually, who want to make it, regardless of the age, I think that really comes
Yes.
in a very, very big aspect in making it.
Yes.
You need to hone your negotiation skills, make sure you get what you want and get it right. You need to be able to introduce yourself, and this comes with communication,
Yes.
not only verbally, but also write about it.
Yes.
Education is big because it opens you up to the worlds that you've never been, either through the knowledge that you get or even traveling.
Yes.
And you've talked about these opportunities that exist elsewhere.
Yes.
And also Teddy has mentioned a couple of that, and how we need, for those of us who are exposed and those of us who have access to these opportunities, how can we create this knowledge back at home? And when you're talking about the process of getting products from China, through South Africa to Botswana,
Yes.
I ask myself again and again, how can we make sure that, we create, Africa becomes now the next China, because we have what it takes. Back in the day, if I'm not wrong, I'm not that old, but I've read a couple of stuff, that China, they only had human capacity.
Yes.
They had nothing else.
Yes.
And they realized, because our guys are young and capable, how can we actually utilize this resource? And that's where Africa is right now. Out of 1 billion people, out of 1 billion Africans who are in Africa, we're not counting even those who are all over. 70% of that is young people. 25 and below, I think.
Yes.
And that is actually increasing over time, because even when you talk about shipping talent in Berlin, I've seen that happen in tech a lot, especially, last 5 years. Very young guys who are going to Germany, Amsterdam, Holland, China, Australia, US, to really do the job. So how can we create these opportunities here in Africa? And as you speak about that, it's all a matter of creating opportunities, and I think you have created it in your own way. Teddy has been, a big proponent of that since back in 2000 and, back then. But we need more, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with 1 billion people. It's not easy for 2-3 people to take that task. We need all of us to rise up to the occasion. I want you to mention a couple of things that actually have impacted Africa in a certain way. HIV and AIDS. Things like FGM, right? And as you finish, the impact of research and fundraising, not fundraising where we go to Silicon Valley to get the money, but where African, and this actually is evident even as of today,
Yes.
that African companies right now, the most of the funding that is coming in is coming from African diaspora, who come together and say, look, we have all the dollars, we have all the euros, can we come together and create a fund that we can invest in home companies?
Yes.
Because this narrative, I think, was there during your time and Moi. Kazi kwa vijana, pesa kwa wazee. Like money to the elders,
Yes.
and then the young guys are putting all
Break
the
their
work.
backs.
So we can balance that out now that wazee has the money and vijana have the energy to do it. And I think it's a good thing if you look at it. How can we interchange that to build a better ecosystem for our future generations?
Well, first of all, again, using the ACAD system,
Yeah.
the young people must learn how to communicate with the wazis who have the money. If you come to me and you're speaking in your sheng and what are those?
Lombotov, Shembeteng.
Sasa, you want to borrow money from me and you're using
Mbugi Genje.
what? I've no clue what you're talking about. Okay?
Yes.
And then when your attitude is that, wewe Buddha bana,
Mzai.
whatever, you don't come respectfully. Why am I going to listen to you? So one of the things that we first of all teach them is how to communicate and communicate cross-generationally. If the money is with the wazes, learn how to speak that language. Learn how to negotiate. And you remember, you're negotiating from a position of value. Okay? Mkono mtupu haufanyi nini?
Haulambwi.
Haulambwi. So you don't come to us, like now, some of the struggles I'm having with the youth from Mathare, 80% of them, then they have an opportunity of speaking with me, they immediately asking for a handout. And I've said, guy, you have a chance of pitching a problem and a solution that you have to me, which I can now be able to take to all sorts of people who can help you. And the first thing you're asking me for is a handout. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Come and show me the value that you're bringing to this situation.
Provide
And then
a
we will
solution.
talk. Yeah, provide a solution. And we already have a format for you to do that, so that you're not talking for 5 hours all over the place and you can't actually talk about. There's a specific format. Have you used that format? Can you tell me what the problem is? What is the solution? What is your methodology? What are your needs? Whether it's in terms of resources, and those resources might be human capital, cash, whatever it is. And can you do it on one page? So some people don't want to write it, but they want to come and give you long stories in your face. And then others want to appeal to your emotions. You know? And then others, I'm sorry to say, want to come and appeal to you with their sex appeal. And they look at you and smile at you. And, you know, we don't have time for that kind of thing. This is mazee. Tumeona hii mambo yote. Kwani unajaribu kunionyesha nini? So with all due respect, okay, with all due respect, when those skills are learned, when those skills are taught at a greater level, when people understand how to pinpoint what it is and they realize that they need to think critically in solving those problems, not sitting back and waiting for others. And then when people take leadership, so that if you're one person, and some of my young people who've gotten scholarships are examples of that, you have an 18-year-old who is going and leading a team of 20, 30 people, some of whom are my age. By the time you can be able to leverage your leadership in that manner, you will get the resources eventually. Yes. You might knock on one door today, another door today, another door tomorrow, and they refuse. But somewhere down the line, because you're learning persistence, you will be able to find the persons who are going to do that. Because now you've also understood how to target and delimit where you're going to actually seek the resources that you're looking for. As I said, Matiangi A students, I spoke to them for every year, and I challenged them, guys, please, within the next 2 weeks, I want you guys to give me a proposal that I can take to Dr. Vimal Shah or to Dr. James Mwangi. How many responses would I get every year? Guess?
One.
Okay. You?
Maybe 0.
Maybe. Penny?
I would say 0.
Well, yeah, exactly. I get 0.
And Julius, the reason why I'm also happy about this, Jake Nkari from Google came here 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
He challenged some young techies and all that.
The same way.
The same way that if they think they're the best in their game, to call him, to email, he'll give them a job immediately. So far, nobody has taken him up.
Now look at
And they'll be given a salary in the 6-figure.
Yeah.
This is serious.
Yeah. So you see, one of the key things about leadership and mentorship is to train you to aspire higher. So when Dr. Vimal Shah gives his time for our youth, and we have one of our mentoring future leaders sessions, days, this guy will come to the auditorium in BIDCO at 7 a.m. He's coming 1 hour before us, guys. Some stupid kids are going to be walking in at 9:30, 10. The guy,
serious.
and we're starting at 8. They're walking in an hour and a half late. This is a billionaire here who's ready, willing, and able to engage with you guys. You're walking in an hour and a half late. I still remember one time one girl came in at 11. Okay? And I know because utaziuliwa kwa gate. And so the gate guys are calling me. Kuna mtoto wako hapa kuja uchukue. So I have to leave the auditorium to go and get the kid, because they are not going to let a kid get into the factory.
Yes, it's a factory.
Yes. Okay. So I have to go there and physically get someone who sees nothing wrong with walking in at 11. Okay. You have a chance of touching a billionaire's, the hem of his garment, catching his attention, and you have nothing of value to tell him. How are we going to help you in that kind of a situation? We can't help you. So if you choose not to be a critical thinker and a problem solver, if you just want to entertain yourself with TikTok all the time and all the other things that people are doing, so be it. As the scriptures say, Galatians 6:9-10, do not be deceived. God will not be mocked. What a person sows, that they will reap. So we want kids to begin to understand that you need to sow in hard work.
Africa's problems are big.
Not going to church at 11 p.m. to beat drums until 5 a.m. and then you go and sleep and then assume that everything is going to work. It's not going to work that way. You need to actually roll up your sleeves. Because if you are in an African continent, you're on the African continent and you're in an African context, the problems are immense.
There are many.
They're all over you. Think.
We are late in the party already.
Yeah, we are already
In
late in
fact,
the party.
Africa is an entrepreneur's paradise.
Yeah.
And so people need to...
I have a question even as we are on that line, and I think there's also another question you'll answer from MK. But is it a problem of us not engaging people in human-centered design and that could be maybe you can speak about that.
We don't actually have what they call at Stanford design thinking, or even when we come up with solutions, they're not human-centered. So we just hypothetically, because we see garbage there, we think collecting it is a solution. But that's not a solution in the long run, and actually doesn't make anyone money. But if we see a garbage and we see electricity and we see, fertilizer and we see, things to do with recycling and rebuilding some of those materials, then that's a lot of opportunities. So, and I feel, well, I might be privileged to have sat down with some of those guys who formulate these kind of things. And that's why sometimes when I engage with guys who are younger than me on my age mates, I don't blame them so much, because I also think some of them are not exposed. And I've come to realize, I was thinking at that line that, you guys, why are you not getting it? But I sat down and realized that if you're not in the universities around Nairobi, leave alone even going out there, right? Rarely will you be exposed to some of these things or these conversations. And you don't expect someone to travel all the way from Kisii University to Nairobi for maybe a 3-hour event. Even resource-wise, they're starved. The ELB or the Education Loan Board approves some of those loans late when these people are too much into debt. So you have to be cognizant of that, because when you go out there, you'll find so talented, so skilled people. But now they have not been exposed. And after maybe realizing that, I've tried to do a couple of things with a couple of my friends, and that has become a game changer, where people are building real solutions, real time. And we approach it in one way. Maybe there are several ways to do it. Like we say, you just need a laptop and good internet, or moderate internet, and then you open the door to the world. So you can research things like to do with like HCI, human-centered interfaces, when you're building something. You can have a design thinking. There are playbooks there to show you how to go around this. And that actually has changed the way even they learn. Because at the end of the day, you're not just going to school to pass exam. You're going to school actually to understand, how can I use this knowledge to build a solution? So you might be surprised by the over time. And this, because I do it for free, I ask them, like, if I do this for free and I give you for free, for me it's not free, because I'm giving you my time that I'll never get back in my life. So the only way you can pay this is do this to someone else, maybe in primary school, or primary school. You understand? And if we all do this and approach from the empathetic point of view, I think we can change the dynamics.
Now, my challenge with that is, you see, on the ACAD way, one of the things that they all have to do, especially the high school kids and especially the gap year kids, is that they all have to go back to their former high school and former primary and give a motivational talk based on their life. Now, as and when I have a simple group of 15 people that I'm specifically working with, and I require them to do that, guess how many actually go back to their former high school and former primary school and do that, out of 15? And these are people I'm meeting every week, and I'm engaging weekly. Every week for the core training, again during the week for our field activities and other communications that are going on. Guess how many actually do that? I just give on average.
Maybe 2?
2, exactly. Out of 15. So now, this is why when you see the transition figures of those who now go to the top universities, it will be those people.
It will reflect the number of people who took you serious.
They have chosen to give back, paying it forward, and in the process they start learning, some of these leadership things I'm talking about. They learn how to communicate in a manner in which your audience can understand what you're saying. If you're speaking to primary school kids, you've got to lower the bar a little bit. Speaking to the high school kids, you got to do this. And sometimes and there were, over the weekend, there were some who were complaining about that. They were saying that when they were in high school, I actually took them not only to university students, I took them to my MBA classes. And guys are saying, man, I was in Form 3. How do you have me become a co-teacher with you in your MBA class? I said, well, I have taught you how to communicate, and there was a point I wanted you to teach. That was where I was. Form 3, but I'm speaking to MBA classes.
So they have the access of knowledge that an MBA person or PhD person has. So they have no reason not to use it.
Exactly.
In other words,
And for me, it worked both ways, because when now my students who are in the MBA, who were, guess what, at that time were 40 plus, are being taught by a 15-year-old.
It's a different game.
That's a whole.
My goodness, Daktari Bana. A, you're insulting us, but B, your point is home. You're insulting us because this one here is younger than my children. So how can you bring this person as a guest, whatever, to teach me? But the point is that knowledge does not matter on the age. And when my kids at 15 can be able to teach 40-year-olds, What do you think that does in terms of their confidence? So bottom line is that when we have those two who are stepping out,
Exactly.
the world it even gives them more and more opportunities.
Yes. Reverend, do you know what they say even about Jesus Christ? He couldn't save everyone.
Exactly.
So at the end of it all, you just need those two, but
Yes.
with high impact, because that shows you that over time, this high impact will multiply.
Yes.
And that's what we need anyway, because if Jesus himself couldn't,
Yes.
on a lighter note, you know what I mean.
I'm totally
But
with
I
you.
want you to speak on these two things that I think, even today as we speak, they are really deterrent of how we can be able to achieve our maximum potential. There is a FGM which you have worked on and tried to do a bit of work on it. And there is HIV/AIDS, which is still a problem even in some of our African countries. And I know you have been in Botswana and they have done an amazing job around that.
Yeah.
Maybe what could you say?
Just to
about
give context, there are like 26 million people living with HIV and AIDS.
Okay.
6 million live in the 5 continents of the world that are not Africa.
Yeah.
19
Here in Africa.
live in Africa.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even most of them live in East, Central, and Sub-Saharan Africa. It's crazy.
Now, sadly, that also has to do with our attitudes. It has to do with our paradigms. It has to do with our beliefs. Because if you'll forgive me for again appearing to attack the church of which I am ordained by,
Says the Reverend.
some of us will now go and indulge in funny things like that with all due respect, and then think that you just go and pray and everything is going to be all right. There are consequences to choices. Okay, and some of those consequences are not going to allow you to escape from your irresponsibility. So part number one, as I say, in terms of our paradigms, in terms of our attitudes, in terms of our beliefs, we think we can get away with murder simply because you're going to church at 11 p.m. and beaten drums until 5 a.m. That is not how it works. We need to be able to understand the direct cause and effect relationship, especially on issues of health. If you don't understand cause and effect and you want to introduce spirituality in between to resolve the bad causes, the effects will always follow you. So, for example, when I was now in Botswana, with all due respect, the citizens were rather generous in some of those areas relative to other people. In fact, for handsome young men like you'll be being hunted down by the women. Okay?
It's their culture.
It's their culture. So you are literally hunted down by the women. And guess what? You like this young man here, he'll be in trouble.
He's already in trouble.
He's already
Even here in
Even
Kenya, I know.
Okay. So attitudes. And then we're mixing spirituality in it. And then we have preachers who are now giving you false hope. Selling concoctions of do this and pay this.
Kitile mentality.
Yes. It is a shame.
I have a question actually.
Yes.
The church has always avoided talking about safe sex, condoms, and things like that. Do you think it's part of the fuel that's growing the denial? Because really it's affecting. It's affecting a lot of young people. It's affecting a lot of. It's crazy. How can you have almost 80% of the people affected by HIV living on one continent in a world with 6 continents?
Well, as I said, the church
it's
is a powerful platform for speaking and sharing this kind of knowledge and wisdom. However, if you have leaders who are more concerned about getting a tithe out of Oliver and out of you, then what are the chances that they're actually going to share that message?
Of course.
I'm glad to have worked with the JB Kilimo Foundation, which was very specific on matters of FGM. And if you look at the statistics of FGM, sadly, a lot of them are in the Muslim areas, especially of the north.
Of Kenya.
Okay, and of course the rest of the country.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of places that are very hard to penetrate unless you get to the elders. Now, when we have leaders who don't understand the power that they have to communicate this kind of information, and they are only interested in their personal self-aggrandizement, then what is going to happen? So you have to actually, because those are the gatekeepers to those societies. So getting to those societies was very difficult. Dr. J.B. Kilimo, with all due respect, with whom I worked, did a great job. She was actually the chairperson of the FGM board, appointed by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta at the time. And as I said, I had the privilege of being able to work with her and supporting work that is in Masai Land, in Samburu, in all these other places.
What's
And
the challenge of what's the major challenge of FGM and even HIV and AIDS in your experience? Is it something to do also economics? Is it something to do with the trickle of resources in our family setup? Is it something to do with exposure?
It has to do with culture and cultural beliefs. People have got very negative, stereotypical cultural beliefs. If you use the example of now where Dr. J.B. Kilimo comes from, which is Marakwet, and I have the privilege of going there severally, there's this belief that if a woman is not cut, she will not be able to get a husband. And you've been brought up in a culture where getting married is very important for women. So since this is a story that is being told to you by your great-grandmother, your grandmother, your mother, it becomes very difficult for you to actually say no. So the alternative is that you either debunk the whole myth and literally risk being chased away from your home, as happened with Dr. J.B. Kilimo at the time when she said no, or else you just go with the flow. Most people are not strong enough to say no, so they will go with the flow. So these are real challenges that actually exist in our societies, okay? And that's why I was really glad when at the time President Uhuru Kenyatta grabbed that whole thing of running with the FGM thing, and they literally had safe houses and places where people could run to.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, those were availed.
I hope it's still there.
Unfortunately, a lot of those became affected by corruption because you as
Is
a
it
parent,
all about funding?
No, it's not all about funding, but let me give an example. If you as a corrupt parent have got 4 daughters, okay, and you're seeing that people who have been threatened with FGM have run to a safe house and are being taken to school.
Fully educated.
Utake kulipa school fees. You tell your daughters, can you jifanya you're also running away, tunataka kukutairi, you go there. you know. So things like that were leading to those kind of resource centers becoming overwhelmed. Not because of actual threats, but because wewe as a father hutaki kulipa.
Threat, yeah.
Hutaki kulipa. So a place like that, I'll just use an example, can maybe handle 100 young girls. And then you're finding they need to cater for 900, and then of course now resources run out because you're having to run to the
and you can't distinguish who is genuine versus who is not.
Very difficult to distinguish who is genuine and who's not genuine. So it is us people as a society who are shooting ourselves in the foot. So those who should basically benefit are failing to benefit because of our own value system of corruption, stealing, and an absolute lack of shame. And yet our statistics are is that 80% of us are supposed to be Christians. How are you therefore proving that you're a Christian when you are the same person who's promoting that kind of
Absolutely.
So these are the
Always
things.
remember that it is the church that killed Jesus.
That's a painful reality. But also remember that they chose Barabbas instead of Jesus. So these are some of the human conditions.
It's history. It's a very important history.
Yes,
for
yes.
people to see.
Yeah, and we do not want to reflect it with our political situation recently.
Do you want to talk about politics?
No.
I know I
Wait
don't.
a minute. Hold your horses.
I value my life.
Reverend Doctor, there's something important about scholars, and I've seen it over time. There's so much grants, funding, and we have really smart minds around doing credible research.
Yeah.
But that research ends up in either library or just material that, it's somewhere in the website. And especially in Africa, if you go to, developed countries, you'll find research interfacing in the industry products.
Yes.
If you're okay, you can speak on this. How can we interface this brilliant research into our own day-to-day, life? Because I'll give you an example. There was a time I was involved in a research about urban planning, whereby if you design a road, you have to cater for the cyclists, pedestrian, cars, motorbikes, And that actually also speaks to the health, because if you have a path where you can cycle, then rather than driving to work, you can just cycle to work.
Yeah.
But that was funded by US, and actually it was implemented somewhere else besides the country where the research was done, which is Kenya. They tried to implement it in some part of Nairobi, but that's it. And even right now, as you speak, there are different expressways, all these roads that are being built, but you don't see that.
Bottom line again goes back to what are our values? What do we value? Okay? What are our paradigms? What are our beliefs? Okay. As and when somebody is able to travel to some of the developed countries, and I'll use the example of the United States, You will not have all these people interfacing at the same point. The cyclist, the motorcyclist, the car, the pedestrian, and whatever. They all have different places, different lanes. You even have dual carriageway roads.
Yes.
Now, come back to us here. You are the MP, okay? You are sitting on CDF. You have a plan here for a road. You know that there's money for it to be a dual carriageway. You decide to make a single carriageway because you want to eat the money. So what happens? People end up now being mowed down by cars and whatever.
Yes.
Because you have eaten. And that money that you have eaten, you've put it in a Swiss bank account.
Yes.
You've not told anyone, including your wife.
So even when you die,
It remains out there.
It's a build Swiss.
you've said something very important, because even when we are building infrastructure,
Yes.
that's a priority we need to have. A road from, say, one end of the country to the other is, if it's dual carriage completed, the number of lives you save. Like
Yes,
Africa, we
yes,
need to start measuring value by lives.
I mean, even
improved and
economically
saved.
is like next level.
But you see, you have leaders. Bear in mind, I've just come from Ghana. And one of the things that when you're in Ghana, you can be able to see is kind of places where people were held as slaves because they were shipped out. Of
course.
How were these slaves attained? It is the leaders who actually
Without
showed-
the leaders, slavery would never.
That's my point.
Even the white did not colonize us.
Yes.
They used proxies, our own brothers
Our
and
own
sisters,
leaders, yes.
to
So-
colonize us.
In exchange of salt, sugar,
Yes, and
glass,
and
mirrors.
clothes.
Yes. So now, with all due respect,
Yeah.
that kind of leadership situation has not changed.
Absolutely.
Right now, we with our SGR should be dual carriageway. And
You are
even-
saying, you're the guy who was in NAC Kenya.
Yeah.
Or is in NAC Kenya.
and I still am. And
Yes,
as dual
you are saying the thing.
carriageway, you should be able to have as many trains as necessary, plying that route. And secondly, that same train should have gone all the way to Malaba, with all due respect. And then we should have had another part that's going all the way to Nyeri.
With a side-by-side road.
Exactly. But now, because we have leaders who are more concerned about lining their pockets, and they don't care how much blood it costs in terms of people dying, so that you can be able to get $1 billion into your pocket and into your kitty. What's
Which
the difference?
actually you don't need in your lifetime.
What is the difference between you and that chief who was selling his own people or selling the people from the
For
other
sugar.
army?
Maybe
For
you're
sugar.
worse.
Yeah, and they come and they raid the slaves.
And soap.
So some of us right now are busy, I'm sorry to say, pointing a finger at the queen. Because we do not want to accept our own responsibility as African leaders who facilitated,
colonization.
provided,
Yeah.
and supported it because we were able to benefit.
Yeah.
Though the queen is not innocent at all. So.
No, we're not talking about the queen being innocent per se,
Just to
but
be
I'm just trying to say,
God save the king.
Teddy will be quiet on this one.
Yes,
As many friends.
as you
can't
point one
antagonize.
finger out, how many other fingers are pointing at you?
For sure.
Yes.
for-
So when we choose now to sanitize this thing by only blaming this late person who was passed on, and we choose not to take responsibility for our own part, for our own
Yeah,
collab-
because by the time the slaves were arriving at the port, they had to come from the hinterland.
Yes.
And history tells us that even some chiefs
Yes.
began to exert very inhuman punishment
Yes.
just to be able to make the numbers.
Yes.
To sell their brothers.
There we go.
You would be maybe you are hungry and you stole someone's chicken.
Yes.
You would end up being a slave.
Yeah.
These are, and the funny thing is, no one talks about this. I don't know if Africa has healed from that reality.
No, people are traumatized.
It has just
People are
been
traumatized,
changed.
yeah.
It has been changed from one form to another.
People who fought for freedom, they didn't enjoy it. Until today, even their generation are suffering.
There we go.
You
So
see?
there is all that conversation to have,
Trauma.
among many others.
Trauma.
But in a nutshell, I would like each and everyone to give a parting shot to our listeners and our viewers as we conclude this. But this is one of many.
We're coming to Dubai. We haven't asked him about Dubai. Why is he going to Dubai?
By the way,
That should be in your conclusion.
I have so many questions. Even
Yes.
because you see, as a man, it's unfortunate that we're home men. I think we need to.
We will diversify
I thought Anne was supposed to be here. I don't know why you
even
guys chased
Fiona,
her
you'll
away.
start seeing
besides
them in the other
But
podcast.
the point here is
Gender sensitivity.
I wanted
Absolutely.
to ask.
Yes.
That's my personal question. Like, how do you choose the right partner? Because that also determines if you succeed or fail.
Oh, it determines if you will be poor or rich, for sure. No jokes.
Maybe we asked that in Dubai, right?
We are coming to Dubai, bro. I hope
So
you
I
have
shouldn't
had
answer
this.
it now.
You don't have to.
Yeah,
but
but
if
I-
you want to answer, please,
I'm going to Dubai because
as your parting shot.
my wife is working there. I have the privilege of this absolutely wonderful lady call Mukami, who has agreed to be my friend, my partner, my companion, and my lover. Okay, so when you're asking about how do you make that choice, first of all, is that person a friend? Can they be a companion? Can they be a partner before they become a lover? Most of us, unfortunately, we go from 0 to 100, so we go from
Very fast.
we go straight to the lover part.
It's called a microwave generation.
Yes, the
Because
person.
now it's even the TikTok generation.
Yeah, so the person is not your friend. Okay, you hook up so that you can enjoy certain pleasures.
Privileges of marriage.
But you can't have the kind of conversation we're having here. We've been here for 3 hours and we're having fun with each other. Now, imagine having this kind of fun with this person who makes your heart really beat. Okay? So I have that kind of a person. I am so happy and grateful for the opportunity of just spending time with her and spending life with her, doing life with her as a friend first, then as a companion, then as a partner, then from there as a lover. Okay? Now, if you do not have the skills to build good friendships in the first place, then you will make the kind of mistakes many of us make as, almost the norm. And that's why the divorce rate is so high. You end up in a situation where it's someone who you don't even like.
You start at the last part.
Yeah. Or you see, romance, whether you like it or not, is going to last for maybe a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months. If you're very lucky, 6 months, a year, okay? And then it will fade off.
Yeah.
So if that's the only foundation you have of getting together with somebody, and it's a diminishing resource,
Oh dear.
in fact, there's
Economics
diminishing returns.
101.
The more there's diminishing utility and there's diminishing returns.
Wow.
After a year or so, you'll be wondering, how the
What's
heck am I
up?
with this person? Yeah, what's up? And of course, you'll hit the exit door looking for somebody else who can titillate you. So you as a man need to learn how to be able to have friendships that work. Friendships. Friendships that work does not mean that you're always going to agree. Sometimes you will disagree, and sometimes you will fight. And that's one of the reasons why I'm proud to have this gentleman on my right-hand side here. Because if there's any one person who has held my feet to the fire, in Aspen when he took me there, in South Africa when we've gone to South Africa, in Ethiopia when we've been there, in Nigeria, this man even gave up his bed in Nigeria for me.
I remember.
Shall I hear an amen?
Amen.
And I also said, so curious.
I remember. That's so crazy.
So imagine if you're doing this with somebody who's also making your heart
To make money.
Yes.
And by the way, on that we talk about that trip because we missed our flight, and then we went to talk to this Kenyan guy who was running Lafarge in Lagos.
Yes.
And then he was like, you guys, I'll pay your flights. It was quite funny. Okay, continue.
So you need to get friends like this that you're happy to walk with.
Sure.
And you have something in common. You see, like Teddy and I, we enjoy the mentorship space, developing leaders. We enjoy it, okay? So anytime he'll invite me for something that has to do that, man, I will run for it. I will stop doing all sorts of other things and be there, and vice versa. So that's why when he invited me for this opportunity, despite the fact that I'm catching a flight in I don't know how many hours, for me it's important to be here. So do you have somebody like that of the other persuasion for whom you have something that holds you together, and you will be passionate about that objectively before you can even look at each other? You can walk parallel with each other as you celebrate that.
Yes,
A lot of us don't do that. And when you don't do that, when you don't have a friend, let me tell you, when you get to our advanced ages,
You'll be
wonder,
as someone who didn't have someone.
yeah, who is this? And especially now when the kids grow up, like now in our case, now Christy is in the US. Now you're going to be finding yourself in a house with a stranger. You'll be wondering, who is this and why am I with them? But if you have a friendship and the friendship can grow, okay, and then you have goals and things that you want to do together as friends, then it works. So, for example, she flew into Ghana for Michael's wedding. Okay, she caught a flight on Friday night, arrived there on Saturday morning, the morning of the wedding. We enjoyed the wedding, and then, Sunday evening, she caught her flight back to Dubai, arriving in Dubai 5 a.m. so that she can go straight to work. I mean, this is a person who spent her weekend traveling. But it was important enough because she understands the value of mentorship. She understands the value that Michael is to all of us, and she wanted to celebrate with us. Other people will say, pana. No, come on. So many other issues. So, let me challenge you to consider that. Look at your Rolodex. We used to call them Rolodex. Look at all the available chicks. You probably got 20 you can look at. Oliver, 20. And then ask, out of all those, who are my friends? Who can I actually walk with for the next 10 years, for a lifetime? Who can I change and grow with?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because some people wameshafika, they can't grow. Yeah.
That's a very interesting point.
They
Very
can't
interesting
grow.
point,
They
yeah.
can't grow mentally. They can't grow emotionally. For those of us who come from western part of the country, if you found somebody nice from central, they don't go past Limuru. So, can somebody grow and learn?
Yes.
That makes a very big difference.
Yes.
Because we're always going to be changing and growing.
Yes.
Grow together.
Yes.
That's my parting shot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Teddy, parting shot.
Thank you, Julius, for honoring Africa's talking and us
Yeah.
today, because Africa is the origin of speech, is the origin of stories, and we want to bring it back to Africa and keep it in Africa.
Yeah.
For the important point you said about partnership and friendship, for those who are entering into marriage or are contemplating, to marry, I wish that all of you would have a shared vision and also shared values, so that you can grow a robust and happy home, which is the basis of a strong Africa. I fundamentally believe in that. I also, out of everything that I've also been shared here today, is that the power of compound interest. So I was very fortunate that from the time I was 8 years old, I used to sing for President Daniel Arap Moi.
Baba.
Baba Moi. And I met Ambassador Aurelia Brazil, the then U.S. ambassador to Kenya, who those days, when I was 10, I used to wear a Kaluis box style. And so she kissed me on both my cheeks. She lifted me up, a very tall American. I think she's now 80 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
But the reason why I'm saying that is that Moi helped me also become supremely self-confident. Because in 1988, when he was celebrating 10 years of his
Nyayo.
Nyayo era, he actually...
That guy was visionary, man.
Exactly. Invited one, Ibrahim Babangida, IBB. Was very flamboyant. So I met him. I met Siad Barre and all that. So all my life, I've always wanted to give people what I was given in large measure. Because I was a member of AIC Church in my earlier days. And they used to take us to a place called Diguna for children's camp.
Yeah.
They used to pour their hearts to us as youngsters and all that. And life can be made more beautiful and powerful if the older people share their experiences to the younger people in a continuous way. In our home, I grew up with 8 brothers and 8 sisters. I'm number 10. I'm more or less in the middle. And I always watched what they did. And sometimes I didn't ask questions, but I just watched. And because of that, I'm able to create things in an impossible way. Because I'm a sub total of who they are, who all of them are. So the goal is that we should not shy, as we speak today, of building a more powerful Africa. And the way you build a more powerful Africa is not that you look at China or the US and say, gosh, we want to copy what these guys are doing. Because if you knew well about these two societies, there are some things that you don't even want to imitate from them.
A lot of mistakes were made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of lives are also lost.
Yes.
But we can create something out of Africa that even the world will yearn to have once again, because the fundamental thing is that, as Steve Biko said, the world may be facing an industrial or military industrial revolution, but every human being is yearning for the face and soul of Africa. So why don't we just bring them back as our children?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Teddy.
Wow. Yeah. This is what has been amazing. My parting shot, number 1, we are coming to Dubai. Just give us a date around November, December.
The World Cup, so That might be your excuse to come there.
to flow. I know it'll be somewhere in the Emirates, Qatar.
Qatar, yes.
But actually, I personally want to come for the Formula One in Abu Dhabi. So I will align myself to attend the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yes.
So thank you so much. So my parting shot, number 1, we're coming. Number 2, I believe in an Africa of pleasant surprises. What do I mean? Before the world said that women should be given a place at the table, women were running households in Africa.
They were
This
kings.
is
Queens,
they were kings. This is pre-colonialism. Before they said that we be more inclusive. And remember, the US is just celebrating how many years since the women began voting?
Suffrage from the 60s.
Yes, the 1960s. That's when the women were allowed to start voting.
Yes.
Can you believe that? We had Kinjeketile Ngware taking men
Leading
to war.
people,
We had Wangwa Makeri. And that's just Kenya. We haven't talked about Ethiopia. You know, we haven't talked about Rwanda. We haven't talked about Egypt.
Ethiopia, we had a queen.
Yes.
Who Queen Elizabeth
Yes.
and Prince Philip were bowing to.
Bowing to. It's actually in the African archives. Yes.
Majesty.
So I believe in an Africa of pleasant surprises. When the world was discussing, can we be more inclusive? Africa was telling you, and that's how we got colonized, by the way, one of the ways. When the white man came, we were giving them food. Even we gave them a place to sleep, and they were allowed to choose a wife for the time they were here. Why? This is very important. Africans' traditional society. Because Africans believed that if a stranger visited you, you give him a place to sleep, you give them food, and they can choose a wife. Hopefully, they can sire a kid with. So that when they go, if they think of raiding you, they remember they have children there. This is African traditional society wisdom.
Amazing stuff.
Yes. So before the world thought of inclusivity, we were inclusive. That's the only way these guys could have come in here. Of course, definitely, I won't be simplistic. You have the smallpox scourge and all the other things that accompanied the coming in, right? So Africa, I believe in a Africa of pleasant surprises.
Yes.
And the last thing is that I believe in an Africa where there's enough and we
Abundance.
can abundance. And this is my recommendation to ACAD. If we can begin to teach negotiation, storytelling to the startups, I think it will be very worth the time.
Yes.
And we will see a huge growth in value. Because I think a lot of the startups in Africa don't know how to negotiate, how to tell their stories, to attract even the funding that is here.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Graham. My parting shot is that life itself is a negotiation.
Oh, nice.
And thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Julius Weche, for gracing these amazing podcasts and vlog. Vlog is a video blog of Africa's Talking in collaboration with Impact Masters podcasts.
Absolutely.
And this is the first of the many. So as Graham pointed out, we might come to Dubai towards the end of the year, and we want you to enjoy your stay there. And thank you so much. May God bless you and everyone else who is listening to us.
Sudanese clap for you.
Cheers! That's nice.
Good celebration. Good celebration.